to do a screen record again. Okay. See that? Okay, fantastic. So for everybody here, since this question is going to be asked, later on, are we ready? Ready to go? Okay, so this question is going to be asked later on. What's going to happen is, as of December 16, your current web forms, which they call web forms legacy now, is going to be read-only. What that means is you're only going to be able to access the forms to view them. You're not going to be able to create offers on them anymore. So right now, when you log in to web forms, what you're going to be able to see is already the new dashboard. Yes. To access your old web forms, just click on the top right where it says legacy. You'll be brought back to the existing web forms, which is the old web forms. You'll still be able to use it up until December 16th. Now, there's going to be two options for you. How many of you are Docusign users here? Docusign. If you don't know what it is, then you're not a user. Okay, you are. How many of you are Docusign users? So, a majority are Docusign. Essentially, there's going to be two platforms where you can create offers and manage your transactions. One is Treb Internet Docusign. The other is CREA Web Forms. Today, we're going to talk about CREA Web Forms. However, when you learn one, you'll know the other because both platforms are run by Lone Wolf. They're both transaction desk platforms where it's not just web forms anymore. You can manage your entire transaction on these platforms. However, one version of it is CREA's web forms. The other version of it is Treb Internet Docusign. For sake of simplicity, we're going to go through CREA web forms today. I will host a different session for Treb Internet Docusign for Docusign users. However, again, once you go through this today, for those of you who are using Treb Internet Docusign, it's pretty much the same thing. There's just a little bit of difference between the look and feel of Treb Internet Docusign compared to CREA web forms. Functionality more or less is the same. The steps that I'm going to be using are the same to set up transaction templates and creating an offer. The key differences, in case you're wondering, because you're going to end up having a choice. Number one of these does not communicate with the other one, and vice versa. Anything you do on CREA web forms will not show up on Treb's Internet Docusign, and vice versa. Anything you do on Treb Internet Docusign will not show up on CREA web forms. They're completely separate. Okay, number two, on CREA web forms, you will have access to all of Remax Hallmark's custom clauses that Barbara spends a ton of time every single year putting these together. It's like 80 or 90 or 100 of these. You'll have access to it there. It is not currently on Treb's Internet Docusign. Number three, on CREA web forms, you'll be able to, as you'll see me do, you'll be able to link it to your existing Docusign account. You're not able to use Docusign on Treb Internet Docusign. Why? Because Treb's Internet Docusign is Docusign only. On CREA web forms, you have a choice of several electronic signature providers. On Treb's Internet Docusign, by the name, there's only Docusign available to you. So if you're an Docusign user, that's great news. If you're a Docusign user, it's not so great news. However, because Docusign is quote-unquote free because it's included in your Treb membership, you could still use Treb Internet Docusign anyway. If you want to use Docusign on CREA web forms, you actually have to pay for it extra. It's not the free version of it. You have to pay for it, right? And that we'll talk about in a moment. There's a couple of other things I want to go through as far as differences. Treb's Internet Docusign, because it is Treb specific and it's linked right into the Stratus system, there's several advantages of using it. Number one, because it is linked to Stratus and Docusign and web forms and all that. Well, okay, I shouldn't be using the word web forms for that. It's called Internet Forms. There's something called signature mapping. So one thing you can do on Treb Internet Docusign that you currently cannot do on CREA web forms is you can actually, when you create a transaction template, and let's say, for example, as a freehold buyer, every single form on it, once you send it for signatures to the buyer, all of the signature spots on all of those forms will be automatically mapped. Whereas in CREA web forms, if you're using Docusign, you have to map the signatures one by one. So once you export it to Docusign, which you'll see in a moment, every signature spot you have to put in manually. On Treb's Internet Docusign, it's mapped. So you're working with Realtor, BRA, Agreement of Purchase and Sale, everything. Once you send that out, all the signatures are mapped for you. Number two, on Treb Internet Docusign, because it has a direct link to Stratus, the MLS data information form for freehold, condo, sale, leases, whatever, there's a one-click button that uploads that completed MLS data form into an add edit as a draft.
Wow.
You cannot do that on CREA WebForms at the moment, and I don't know if you ever will. So there are advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. Don't ask me which one you should use. That's entirely up to you. You can still do your transactions and make offers and work with buyers and sellers on both regardless. It just depends on how you want to do your business, right? If you want instant Treb upload for MLS data information forms and all of that sort of thing, if you want signature mapping, use Treb's Instant Authentisign. Treb's Instant Authentisign too, because of the Stratus link, you'll notice that in MLS data information forms, it's drop-down menus. So you can select municipality, community, area, whatever. It knows exactly where, for example, if you choose York, only the York municipalities or cities show up. On CREA WebForms, yes, there's still a feed of MLS and all that sort of thing, but because it's not 100% integrated into Treb Stratus, you still have to do quite a bit of manual. Now, if you love Docusign and you never want to let it go and you love your Docusign app, CREA WebForms is just as fine to use. It really depends on which user experience you want. Any questions?
You mentioned
We'll start here because I know. We'll start here and then we'll go around. Yes, go ahead.
A couple. The legacy is going to read only, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can still print off. You can still print from there.
My assumption is because it's read-only, you can only access the forms. You cannot create any more offers, duplicate, etc.
Right. I can't edit or anything, but I
No.
can be able to print the existing.
My recommendation, though, some of you have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 plus years. Some of you before even WebForms came out. You may have several hundreds. I don't know if anybody has 1,000 templates or kits. There you go. Unless you absolutely need it, there's no point of transitioning it over. So this is going to answer the question of what do I do for backing up all of my, there's no point of saving 600 kits. Take your clauses, take your best clauses out of it, put it into a Word file or a doc file or a Pages file, and then save it until we upload it to the new transaction template. So there's no point. If you want to do it on the CREA WebForms, it's as simple as pressing. The migrate button. If you want to bring it to Treb Authentisign, it's download and then upload. It's a whole process. I'm not going to talk about that today because it's up to you whether you want to save these forms or not. My recommendation is just forget about it. Just take your best clauses and then just let it wipe out and start from scratch. Yes.
And on the Treb Authentisign, is it just Treb forms that are there?
Is it just Treb forms on the?
I want to do a data form.
All the form. Okay, so that's a good question. If you're dealing with other boards, you should be using CREA if you want other boards. Now, the assumption, of course, is if you're listing on Treb, even if it's a buried property, it's still going to be a Treb listing. So you're okay with using Treb forms because you're using an X region within a Toronto MLS. However, if you're interboarding or you're listing somewhere else, you need to use, or you can use CREA WebForms. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Which one did you say is the one button that you can have it over and I guess?
If you go into your old legacy, if you go to your legacy and you look at the kit, look for the migrate button. There's a migrate button.
Is that what you're asking for? Oh, I just want to know the previous one.
We'll show you this in the end because that's not the most important part. Any other questions? Yes.
The migrate goes to CREA.
So migrate button goes to CREA WebForms. It does not go to Trebs. For Trebs, you have to download and upload. But we're going to see that till the end because that's not the most important part today. Yes.
the automatic of the initials. The initial and signature.
It's
You're not doing that today.
I'm not doing Authentisign today. I will save Authentisign for a separate.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. You guys want an attempt?
Is that so we can do edit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will that populate the initial?
Yeah, you didn't have to ask me that. Like, some of the questions you have, I'm going to be answering through the process. So the only questions that I want, as of right now, is anything related to CREA WebForms or Trebs. There's a difference. No, okay. What we're going to do is we're doing this in 3 parts. So this is the format, just because this could take forever. When I did this at Baby, it took 2.5 hours because everybody was just asking questions. I ended up answering it through the process anyway. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce 3 steps that are the most essential. Number 1, how to create a transaction template so that you're ready to go at any given time if you have an offer or a listing. After that, I'm going to answer questions specifically to that. I'm not going to be answering questions through it. Just at the end of it, if you have any questions, I'm going to answer it specifically to that process. Number 2, we're going to create a transaction, an actual transaction. We're going to pretend one of you is buying a freehold property, which is what we're going to be doing with the transaction template for. So I'll show you the creating an offer part. Then I'm going to answer questions for that. Number 3, we're going to talk about the signatures, how to export it into Docusign, and then I'll answer questions about that. This could go for a long time, so that's why I ask for everybody's patience. Let's keep chit-chatting to a very minimum, if not to a nil. That way we can get through it, if you don't mind, because it is a lot to learn. And I promise you, everything that I do cover, I've done this now several times, it will be covered within the steps. If for whatever reason you have a question and I didn't cover it, save it to the end of that particular topic, if that's okay.
So I know that you did the whole Docusign in your original.
In Baby, yes.
Or Baby, I watched that one.
Yes.
And obviously it was too much, which is why I didn't create.
Right.
But I have a feeling people might want to migrate
Right.
to like
Yes.
the
We're gonna say that too.
touching on it a little bit.
Depending on how we do with time, and depending on how much time we have, I don't want to eat into our luncheon, literally eat into our luncheon, right? If we have time at the end of this, yes, I would love to show you Trev Instant at Appendicine as long as everybody's still okay with it. The reason why I'm starting with CREA WebForms is because you have your clauses here. Chances are your forms are already starting to migrate here. Plus, everything you learn here, you can just, it's the same process with Trev Instant at Appendicine. So we'll start with that, and a lot of you are Docusign users. So, and I'm I have Docusign because that's where I sign your cancellation. Well, not for up here because this is your group. Right?
I don't know if you caught it at the beginning and everybody's just stuck on the January 1st, but everybody realizes now they've upped the date.
It's December 16th.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because some people may just when you drown out a date, you think so it's now been up to December 16th, and after that, you'll only have read only. So it's not January 1st anymore. Okay? See,
okay,
I didn't catch that.
So let's not ask questions why. Let's not ask questions why there's 2 different, let's get started with it. Now, Connie has done something very wonderful for us because this is the first time that I'm going to be teaching and using these particular tools. When you set up your transaction template, it's very easy when you know what actual forms you want to put in there. Now, one way you could do it is you could use your existing formats and then just list down the forms. But if I can grab this so that I can show it. Connie has pointed out these fantastic resources. These are form number 280, form number 380, and Hallmark's leasing checklist. Now, form number 280, you can find all of this in WebForms. Form number 280 is seller services forms checklist. So when you're putting kits together, you can refer to this to know which forms you are going to put in that particular transaction template. Same with number form 380. 380 is for the buyer services, which are which are offers basically. These are all of the forms that are relevant to buyers. And then of course with leasing. Now, today when we create a transaction template, we're only going to do one of them. Ideally, you should have 8 transaction templates. Freehold buy and sell, condo buy and sell, freehold list on the listing side, and then freehold offer, condo offer on for a lease on the tenant side, right? So 8. Again, freehold buy sell, which is a listing in this or a buyer, seller or buyer. Condo buy and sell, that's already 4. And then on the lease side, listing a freehold, listing a condo, and again on the lease side as a tenant, renting a condo, renting a freehold. Once you learn the transaction steps of creating a transaction template here, you can do it 7 more times. Well, for you, it's 8 more times. But you can do it 8 times. It's the same process. So let's get started. I am recording this, so I hope the recording turns out. Otherwise, we'll give you Richmond Hills one. CREA WebForms, you can see it on the screen here. When you log in, there's 2 ways to log in. One is webforms.realtorlink.ca, the URL that you can see up there. The other way is if you go into Trev and on your home page, you'll see WebForms as a button, right? On the right side of the page. You can click on there as well. If you click on Instant Event Design, that's Treb's Instant Event Design. So just so you know. So I prefer that you log in this way just because, you know, it's a lot simpler. You won't have any data overlap between the two systems. Just log into webforms.realtor.link.ca. Now, if you're accessing it and you're thinking that you want to see your old web forms, but you see this page, what's going to end up happening, I'm just going to log in here. Some of you may have already logged in. Let's say, for example, you think you're logging into the old web forms or the legacy web forms, and all of a sudden you see the dashboard here. And then you're like, oh my goodness, where did all my offers and all of that stuff go? For you, that's everybody. That's why I posted this on Facebook yesterday on our Hallmark networking site, because everybody started calling me and texting me and emailing me. All you have to do is click on legacy version to go back to the old web forms. So on the top right, legacy version, go to legacy. It's going to bring you back to the old web forms. So you only have, what is it today, December the 10th? You only have 6 more days. Probably 5 more days, because on the 16th will probably be the hard chop off or the deadline. So 5 more days to firm up those deals, write offers, do listings under the old web forms before it goes to the brand new one. That's how you get to the legacy. Again, I'm not going to go through the migration today. I don't think it's the most important topic to talk about. To go back to the new web forms, all you have to do is click on the button to go back to the new web forms. The first thing that we're going to do, if everybody's on this page now, the first thing we're going to do, is everybody okay so far? First thing we're going to do is have a look at the dashboard. I'm going to show you how to customize your dashboard, and then after that, I'm going to show you how to link your Docusign. So when you log into web forms, you're going to see this member dashboard. What you do is you click on the unlock lock button over here. What that allows you to do, just minimize this on this screen too.
How come some of us got transaction kits and didn't get that page?
Okay, we're not going to answer those questions right now. Sorry. Just if you're on the old web forms, click on the button to go back to the new web forms on the dashboard. Everybody should be on the screen. Your screen may look different. As long as you see member dashboard, we're all good. Okay. Click on the lock unlock button. That allows you to customize what you see here. What you see on your dashboard is basically, like a lot of you will not have anything here. Don't worry about that. Don't panic. You're good. The reason why mine is populated is because I've been playing around the system, doing demos, doing training. So that's why mine looks like this. Yours will not look exactly the same. As long as you can read member dashboard on your screen, you're good to go. When you click on lock unlock, you can actually customize the look and feel of this. So watch. I'm going to take away my windows. And now I'm completely blank. If you're completely blank, it's probably you've played around with it already, or I don't know what else could be the possibility of it. But now I can design this any way I want. What I pretty much want on my dashboard is this create button, which allows me to create a transaction so that every time I go into web forms, I can just create transaction and jump right into it. I may also want to have my templates button here. But the point is you can customize what shows up. We're going to answer questions at the end, if you don't mind. Transactions, forms, and I'm just dragging and dropping. You'll have access to this video, so if you're lost already, you'll be able to watch the recording. But my main point here is you can customize the way this looks and feels. Now, this new web forms is not just web forms. As you can appreciate, why they call it a transaction desk is because if you're working with teams, you can start to share all this information within your team. If part of your process is using transaction checklists, so for example, you have a buyer, you go through a specific process, you can actually add checklists into this. So it's not just web forms anymore. It's your entire transaction management. You can handle communications, you can handle documents, you can manage contacts. All of that is now within here. This is what the old web forms can do. This is why we should all be happy about this, because there's a lot more features, right? How many of you are overjoyed? Right, so I'm just right now basically dragging and dropping. Change is good, that's right. You can put tasks in there. And so now that's why mine looks like that. You can customize this however you want. If something disappears, just click on one of the top buttons. Now, question is, what are these things that show up? Your most recent transactions that you're working on show up here like a feed. Just like the Facebook news feed. Recent news goes up there. Same thing here. If you touch the transaction, it'll show up. Yours is blank, because you don't have any transactions yet. If you're starting to see something, you may have migrated something over. Same thing with forms. Any recent forms that are relevant to this transaction, you're going to be able to see over here. This is 100% customizable, so that's entirely up to you what you want to do with that. Now, what we're going to do next, we're not going to spend too much time on this because we just want to play around with the look and feel of that. I'm going to click on lock again. Clicking on lock and unlock. Unlock means you can customize it. Lock means that's what it's going to be for the time being. If you want to go back in there, unlock it, play around with whatever you want. Now, I'm going to show you, because a lot of us are using Docusign, I'm going to show you how to link Docusign to this. So this is called a hamburger menu because it looks like a hamburger. Tasty, juicy hamburger. Click on that. It will expand the menu. In order for you to link Docusign, click on this Apps Store shopping cart icon, and you're going to notice all of the things, all of the different signature providers you can link with, Docusign being one of them. Now, mine is already linked. That's why it says unlink. I'm just going to click that so that I unlink it, and I'm going to show you from scratch what it would look like. And I also want you to notice that on Authentisign, there is no link button because you have to pay extra to link Authentisign to this. The Authentisign account that you have, you see where that's going, right? It's the electronic signatures wars between these two. Authentisign on here, you have to pay separately for because the Authentisign membership you have is exclusive to Treb's Instinet Authentisign system. They're not paying for you to use it on CREA system, unfortunately. So you have to pay, I think it's 60, 70 bucks a year. Docusign users, click on the link button here. Once you click on the link button, it's going to load up a prompt for you to log in. So your email would already be there if you're frequently using Docusign. If not, type in your email. And then you put in your password. And then you press enter. And then it's going to link it up. So now I'm linked. Is everybody okay with that so far? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go right into creating a transaction template. What is a transaction template? Right now on your legacy web forms, whenever you have an offer for a buyer, whenever you have a listing, chances are you go into that kit, like you have a kit that says maybe buy or freehold offer, and then what do? You duplicate it, right? On the transaction templates feature of this new CREA web forms and on Treb's Instinet Authentisign, which we'll see later, you can basically create a transaction template so that any kind of transaction that you do from that point forward, it'll basically allow you to create a transaction, pull the relevant template, which is a collection of forms, and then all of a sudden, basically, you're working on the forms that are just relevant to a particular transaction. So here's a scenario today. When we create an offer later on for a freehold buyer, making an offer on a freehold house, all we have to do, because we created the transaction templates, is choose freehold buyer templates. And then once we're in, it's going to pull all the forms that are relevant to that. So the reason why you need 8 transaction templates is because in residential real estate and in residential leasing, you're going to do buy-sell of freehold condos. You're going to do a landlord and tenant side of condos and freehold leases. So I'm going to teach you today, what we're going to do is we're going to use one of these. Can I borrow this, please? Yeah. I want you to refer, and thank you again, Connie. This has been a lifesaver. Otherwise, we end up having to create it from scratch. We're going to pull up the form number 380, Buyer Services Forms Checklist. And the reason why is because I don't want you from scratch going into creating a transaction template and then thinking, you know, what are the forms that I need for this? Everything's already here on this checklist. And so what we're going to do on your screen, click on the hamburger menu again so that this expands. Click on click on setup. Click on the setup button. And once you click on the setup button, you're going to see this menu here. If you're here with me right now, what you do is you click on transaction templates. The process will be the same for Treb Instinet Authentisign. It's going to be the exact same process, as you'll see later. Now, the reason why I have 3 of these is because I started doing these demos. Yours will have no transaction templates, so don't be worried about that. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to delete. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to delete mine, all of them. I'm going to start from scratch again. So this is what yours will look like. You have no transaction templates. Once you've gone through this, you'll have 8 of them. Okay, is everybody okay? It's a bit of chatting going on. Is everybody okay? Guys, is everybody okay? Come on, let's go. Click on the ad. I don't want any of you to miss this, so please follow along. Click on the add button here. And this is what allows you to add a transaction template to your system. We're going to call this one, we'll call this a freehold buyer. Is that okay with everybody? You can call this whatever you want, whatever it is that allows you to remember this. Now in the type of transaction, because the transaction desk, CREA's WebForms and Docusign is a very robust system, you have to associate that transaction template with a particular type of transaction, which in this case will be a residential sale. If you put residential listing, somewhere down the road when all of the features and functionalities of this fantastic program unlock, it's going to mess it up because it's not a listing, it's a sale. So you have to choose residential sale. Just like if you're doing a condo forms, you'll have to pick condo sale. So here we're doing residential sale.
Yes, in our office.
I'm calling it a freehold buyer because that's how I want to remember it. Name it whatever you want. Click on save. And then what we'll notice here is you have various options: checklists, contacts, documents, folders, forms, team sharing. We're not going to talk about all of these features today, as you can appreciate. And at some point in the future, if you want to put a checklist in, so you have a freehold buyer, there's a certain process you do requires a checklist. Some of you may have checklists already, some of you may not. You can actually input your checklist right on here. Instead of having it in multiple places, you're going to manage your entire transaction here. Contacts, you'll see something later on, but for the template, we're going to leave this blank because the template is what gets replicated every single time you have a particular transaction. Documents and folders, we'll keep blank. We're going to jump into forms.
Would you like to get into that screen?
If you have saved, it looks a little different.
So when we click on forms, you'll see that there's no forms yet because we haven't done anything yet. I want you to pull up your 380 so that you're ready to go. Now, it's not important for everybody to, right now it's not important, don't sweat it if you're not keeping pace. Meaning, you're only able to put in 4 forms before we jump to the next step. The reason why is I'm compressing this as much as possible so that we can at least understand the steps. The most important part about today, just so you don't sweat it, is we understand how to do the specific things, right? So don't sweat it if you don't put every single form in as I'm, frantically putting mine in. As long as you know where to find that and edit it, you'll be fine. That's the most important thing. So on the forms, it's empty right now. If you click on the basket, you can't really do anything because it's also empty. There's nothing there. So click on the plus sign here, where you will add forms. Now this pops up. I want you to do life easy. I don't want you to click on these folders, and I don't want you to type in the form name. Connie's provided us with these checklists for a reason. The reason why is because just like you're doing your shopping now, go in there and check off the forms you need. Here, the equivalent is looking up what form you need for a buyer, for a freehold buyer, and then just typing in the form number. Again, don't sweat it if you don't match up all the forms I'm typing in right now. As long as you know how to find this, you're going to be able to refer to it on the recording anyway. If you can't keep up, don't worry about it. I'm going to be doing this quickly for a reason. We're going to answer questions in the end. So just remember that question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing in the form numbers that I would need for a freehold buyer. So for example, when I look on this checklist, form number 810 is working with a realtor. 810 pops up. English, French versions of it. Obviously, I want the English version of it. Click this circle. That will allow you to select it. Your shopping cart all of a sudden says 1. That means you have 1 form saved. Do not click add yet. Do not click add yet. If you click add, it'll add the form. You'll be back to the same, to the screen down here, and then you're going to have to click again to get back into it. So don't click add yet. What I want you to do is continue your shopping. So buyer rep agreement is number 300 as per this form. Click on it. Now I have 2 forms. We're going to keep repeating that until every form you need is on here. So this is what I would recommend for all of you.
It's the most time-saving.
This is the most time-saving part of this. I recommend is put all the forms that you think you're going to need in every single transaction. So I would even include waivers, notice of fulfillment, Form 127, PIN
Right.
type forms, BID forms, and the receipt of funds. Put everything there so that once you have an actual transaction, you don't have to pull in forms and add them in manually. You may not use the waiver. You might use a notice of fulfillment instead, but that's fine. You don't need to use every single form, but at least it's there.
Correct.
In the transaction template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue adding the forms. So for example, number 630 is individual identification information record. Now, one thing here that you're going to notice is I can only add one for now. You may have 2 buyers, you may have 4 buyers. So in the transaction template that you create, I recommend at least 2 630s. However, we're not going to be able to do this right now because you can only add 1. So we're going to continue adding the forms. Later on, we're going to go back in and then manually add another one here. You'll see that in a moment. Receipt of funds is number 635. So I'm just going down the list. It's all on here. So I've got 4 forms now. Confirmation of co-op. Do we want that?
Yeah.
Do we want to get paid? We do.
Yep.
More importantly, do we want to disclose whose side we're representing? Of course, that's the most important part of this. So I'm going to add that onto here. I have 5 forms so far. Referral agreement. Some of you may not be doing referrals on every single transaction. So I'm not going to put 641 in. If you want to put 641 in, that's up to you. So I'm going to skip that. My point here is you don't have to copy what I do. If you want to put 641, referral agreement in every transaction, go for it. Up to you. Agreement of purchase and sale. You'll notice that there's different 100, 101. We're using 100. Why? We're doing a freehold buyer kit right now. So we're using form number 100. Now, one thing to note, and I want you to pay attention to this, don't look at your screens, look up here. You're going to notice that if you type in 100, there's several versions of this form. One with 1-page Schedule A, 2-page Schedule A, 3, 4, 5, 6-page. There's a technical difficulty, or there's a challenge. Thank you very much. There's a challenge right now that doesn't allow automatic flow of clauses as you add to the schedules. Why is this important? The template that we're going to create today has 2 pages of standard clauses. This is another thing that Connie is providing us with graciously. So we're going to select 2 pages, but here's the thing. If you copy and paste 2 pages worth of clauses onto a 1-page Schedule A, what do you think is going to happen? You're only going to get one of those 2 pages. It will appear on that 1 page, but you got to scroll online. Now, you and I know in real life, once you print it out, it's only going to show 1 page. Even as you print as a PDF, it's only going to show 1 page. So half of your clause is going to go missing. This is one of the common asked questions. That's why I'm answering it now. So when you're doing your schedules, yes, later on you'll be able to add and delete pages. So we're good with that. But when you're doing your schedules, just make sure you're keeping track of the clauses that are on that page. Once you get to the bottom of that page, which you'll see in a moment, you're going to start to see a scroll happening. I'll show you what I mean by that. But just for now, what I recommend is picking the 2-page. The 2-pager.
Why would you pick 4?
Just pick the 2-pager. Let's keep our lives easy. Trade record sheet.
Okay,
So
got it.
Trev has a trade record sheet, as you know. CREA also has the same form. However, we're not going to put a trade record sheet because right now we have our own trade record sheets. However, here's the thing, and I want you to pay attention to this. Because this is a transaction desk, and this is going to lead basically to completely paperless technology, in the future, you may not ever have to create another trade record sheet ever again. Because in your transaction kit, in your transaction, I'm not saying this is going to happen now.
No,
so
but it will.
It will. The whole idea of this is going into paperless. All of these information is going to be populated across the entire line of documents. So at some point in the future, your rough trade may be auto-generated by the system because it has all of the information, all of the contacts, all of the commissions, but not right now. Now, when it comes to waivers, notice of fulfillments, amendments, I'm going to put all 3 of these in. Why?
Yeah.
Because even though I don't anticipate using every single one of them, case by case, I may use a notice of fulfillment or a waiver. I may do an amendment. So instead of me, once I create this transaction, manually finding the form, it's already going to be in there. So once we create the transaction later on, you'll see that if I want to do a waiver, the waiver is already in that transaction. If I want to do an amendment, it's already going to be in there. You'll see what I mean in a moment. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Just do a 1-pager for the notice of fulfillment. Registrant's disclosure of interest, acquisition, or disposition. If you're buying or selling real estate and you're a licensed professional, you have to disclose. Does that happen on every single buy? No, so I'm not going to put it in. Disclosure of benefit payment to registrant. Do you collect finder's fees on every transaction? Do you disclose them? You're supposed to do. You just put it in your pocket and don't say anything? Okay, so we're good with that. So all of the other forms on here, this is very good to have as a handy reference tool. Put it on your wall or put it somewhere, because whenever you need to pull up a transaction, or if you're creating these transaction templates, you'll always have it. But now we have 9 forms. Am I missing anything? 801. 801, good, thank you. 801, so add an 801. So that's 10. Anything else I'm missing? No? Okay. So now I'm going to click on add. So what ends up happening is that transaction kit now has 10 of these forms. But as you remember earlier, we were only able to add one 630, which is the individual identification record. So what I'm going to do, better add another one. What I'm going to do is click again, go to forms, click on plus, click on 630. And now we're going to add it again. So you said, did everybody see what I just did? Same thing. And then click on add. So another thing I want to show you again, some of these questions I'm going to be answering throughout, so just bear with me. Can you reorder these forms? 100% you can. All you've got to do is you see this 4-way arrow, just going to click and hold and then just drag however you want it to be. Does everybody see that? I'm just going to fiddle around with this. So there you go. Just drag it however you want it to be. I'm going to be doing one more thing on this before we finish this particular step and then go into a Q&A. Let's see. Agreement of purchase and sale. Let's click on it. So click on your agreement of purchase and sale within the transaction template. We're going to create a schedule, Schedule A. So I'm going to show you something. To add clauses to this manually, you see the top button here? The top buttons? The top icons?
Hi.
Click on this one that says clause.
Yeah, small
The
coffee.
third button from the
That's
left.
it.
So 1, 2, 3. Click on clause. Once you click on it, you'll have the clauses that you'll be able to put in here. Personal clauses are the clauses that you've had in the legacy web forms that may have carried over. If they haven't, I mean, that's just too bad. Office clauses, same thing. Office clauses are Remax hallmarks clauses.
Thank you very much.
So when you click on office clauses, you'll be able to see Remax hallmark clauses. You guys. And then system clauses are the standard CREA or REA clauses that are on there. What we're going to do is we're going to input the typical clauses that we would have.
I think there's too many of us who are lost there.
If you scroll down to the Schedule A on
I
that
can't
screen.
continue to follow it.
Okay, so where is everybody at? Okay, let's go back. We're at the clauses?
Go back.
You're gonna have to just put your mouse where it says buyer agrees to pay the balance.
It says a multi-line text.
Who is not on this page?
I can't see the top.
I am not.
This is the agreement of purchase and sale. Who did not click? Okay.
I have no idea here. These two steps.
Oh, it's just water.
It's water. It's not.
I was gonna think today would have been a good day to put something else.
I'd already be a bit. Okay. Okay. So if everybody's there, fine. For those of you who aren't, okay, Connie's gonna help you out.
Are we creating them under personal?
Chandra's gonna have a couple lunch drinks at lunch, I think.
Do you want me to give you some?
There's a couple questions at the bottom. Are you answering the questions, like the people that are watching? Okay, yeah. Everybody up on stage, does anyone else need help?
Okay, everybody look up at the screen. Everybody look up at the screen. Everybody look up at the screen, please. Are you on the transaction template? Some of you are already on the agreement of purchase and sale.
Right.
Some of you will be on this transaction template. If you're not on the agreement of purchase and sale, go back to transaction template. If you're completely lost,
Yes.
settings, transaction templates, go back to the kit that you've just created, and then go back to the forms. So if you're on this page, you're okay. I'm going to start from here now. If you're already looking at your agreement of purchase and sale, that's where I want you to be. If you're anywhere else, who is anywhere else? Who's browsing Facebook right now? Instagram. Is everybody okay? Is anybody on any is anybody on any other page other than either the transaction template where I see all my forms or on the agreement of purchase and sale? Is anybody anywhere else? Okay, so you're already ahead. You're good to go. Okay, so one of those three. If you're not on any one of those three, talk to Michael. Talk to Michael. Remember, I just want you to remind you something. There is a recording of this happening, so you'll be able to follow along, right? In any training like this, it's always going to be very difficult because everybody's at a different pace. I'm trying my best to compress it, otherwise we're going to miss lunch. Okay, if you're on the transaction template, you're going to see all of your forms. I want you to click on the agreement of purchase and sale button, and that will bring up the agreement of purchase and sale. So everybody who's on the transaction templates should now be here at least. Are you here? Is anybody not here? No. Okay, good. Scroll all the way down to Schedule A, page 1 of the 2 Schedule A's. The one that says buyer agrees to pay the balance as follows. Scroll to that. Is everybody okay? Are we on there?
Yep.
Yes?
Yep.
Yes? Anybody else not?
Yep.
Yes, you're good? Omid is on his computer typing up. Okay. You have two options here. First option, use the freehold clauses that Connie is going to send to Lisa and send to everybody at the end of today's meeting. Two, your second, actually 3 options. One option is that. Second option is copy and paste from your current template. So on WebForms, copy and paste it into a doc file. You'll see why when you start doing these things. Copy it into a separate document file, and then copy and paste those clauses right into
No
this.
way.
Remember, if there's 2 pages worth of clauses, copy and paste page 1, then copy and paste page 2. Because if you copy and paste the whole thing, it's not going to work out properly. It doesn't auto flow into the following pages. It doesn't know how to do that yet. Number 3, I'm going to show you this method today. We're going to input clauses manually, just so you understand how to input these clauses when you're actually editing the offers. After this, we're going to save it, and I'm going to answer questions related to this first part. So going back to your Aurora course 3, residential. Did everybody pass that? Everybody here passed it, right? 53 years ago, when the whole agreement of purchase and sale was what, 1 page? Okay. So everybody's looking at the Schedule A page, correct? Everybody's looking at the Schedule A page. Everybody has been able to find the clause button. Click on clause. It's going to load this up. You have 3 options here. Personal clauses. Personal clauses are clauses that you've done for yourself that are custom, that are saved. Some of you may have had the old WebForms clauses transferred over. Some of you may not. That's a technical issue you have to contact CREA about. So for me, for example, let me see if mine transferred over. This is something I did over a decade ago. I called it COF, COI. Those were the 2 clauses I only used back then, right? And so mine did transfer over. Some of you may have this blank because maybe you never put in custom clauses into your old WebForms. Or some of you may not have been able to get it transferred over. That's a CREA technical issue, you call that. Office clauses are the Remax Hallmark custom clauses. So this is the one that Barbara puts together every single year. It's also available on Hallmark Hub. So in case you need it, it's on Hallmark Hub as well. Third one are system clauses. These are, I believe, Aurora, CREA clauses that they put together for everybody. English, French versions of it. What we're going to do is, in some of these sessions, I've just copied and pasted. Copy and paste is pretty easy. I'm going to actually add them manually today. So what's the first clause? Going back to your course 3 residential, what is the first clause that we put in? Balance of purchase price. So when I type in balance, unless you remember or memorize the clause numbers, when I type in balance, I have two options. One option is the system clause, which is deposit or payment, balance of purchase. The other one is Remax Hallmarks clause. I'm going to choose Remax Hallmark clause. Is that okay with everybody? Then I'm going to press OK. Clause appears, just like WebForms. Did everybody get that?
If you just search it right
Just
now,
type search.
it'll come up
Yeah.
through all of.
I'm going to put in some more clauses, so if you didn't get it that time, I'm going to repeat the steps until we get it. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to put in a line break. Click on clause again. And what other clauses do we want to have in here? Maybe a financing clause? So watch, everybody look up on the screen, please. Everybody look up on the screen. There's really two ways to find these clauses. One is you know a word or a number, like you know the clause number or you know a word in it. You would type that into search. The other way, which is the more tedious way, is you actually click into the folders and painstakingly look to hundreds of clauses for it. So I'll show you both ways. Let's say, for example, I want to put a financing clause in here. Chances are the word mortgage will appear in the financing clause. When I type mortgage, it will automatically populate with clauses that have to do with mortgages. So Mort 01, Mort 02. And you notice that because there is a number Mort 01, I could have also done it that way if I know these clause numbers. So watch. If I type Mort 01, it's only going to show Mort 01. So either by word or by number.
And that's pulling from all three files?
Correct. Correct. It's pulling from all three. So if I scroll down, all the mortgage clauses are here. Now I'm showing you a difficult way. Connie is going to send us the freehold clauses and the condo clauses for offers, so you don't even have to do it this way. Most commonly used. I'm showing this to you so that come December 16, 17, and you have to actually look for clauses. Like for example, you're dealing with septic or a well, or you need a survey. I want to show you how to find the clauses so that you're able to find them.
Than the legacy.
It's no different. So don't be worried about, this is the same, this is exactly the same thing. So what we're going to do, just for the sake of keeping this going, I'm just going to pick any clause. So you being professional, make sure you go through your clauses with a fine-tooth comb, right? So I'm putting in mortgage 1.
Mortgage 4.
You want mortgage 4? Okay, fine. Let's do it. Your mortgage 4 is better. Inspection. Which inspection clause would you like to use? Is it also inspection 4? Pick one. Inspection 4, great. Okay, let's do that. You don't have to follow this exactly the same. If you like it? Okay, good. Inspection 4. Make sure you read it. Make sure you read it. Okay, let's type in a survey clause. Up to date, RH22. And again, I'm just arbitrarily picking any clauses. It's up to you how you want to structure it, or copy and paste the common clauses. Anything else that so we have mortgage, okay, we have balance, mortgage, inspection, survey. Pick one. Pick one.
Visit.
Anything else? Any other clauses that we typically put in here? Lawyer review. Okay, if you want to have solicitor review, type in solicitor. No, it's not going to show up there. How about review?
Solicitor.
Review of, well, that's status. Maybe it's solicitor's approval. Did I?
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Solicitor. No, I did not. Lawyer's approval. Sorry, law 1 on buyer. Okay. Anything else we want to include here?
Visitation? Yeah.
Buyer visits. Now, if you type in visit, I think it's going to be the Remax Hallmark clause that shows up. There you go. RH37. Chattels, okay. Okay. Anything else? Cannabis. Cannabis.
Can't ignore that.
Which one do you want? Cannabis 1, that it was used as a grow out?
Yeah.
Why not? So again, I'm just doing this for sake of example, okay? We've got 7 clauses in the shopping cart. I press OK and then watch. what happens? Guys, we were kind of reckless here. You know why? Look, you can scroll. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a terrible thing. Why? Because anything below this scrolly thing will not print when you print this out, or will not export as a PDF. So you have to fix that. So this is, okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Why am I bringing this up? Because you may be typing your offer frantically and putting in clauses. You print it out, send it for signature. All of a sudden, where did all these clauses go? Where is the disclosure for cannabis? Right? This is something that they got to work on. I'm telling you this right now so that you anticipate it. Again, this is one of the commonly asked questions in this. So what you do to fix it, I'll show you how to fix it. Guys, you want to learn how to fix it? Here you go.
Pay attention.
Look for the last clause that makes it clean onto that page, which happens to be chattels and fixtures. I'll take this clause here, cut, right? Now there's no scrolly thingy. It is insane.
It's
I agree.
insane, seriously.
But you got to get.
It's such a fundamental thing.
But did everybody get what I did now? I pretty much just took it off and I put it into the here. So unfortunately, it's kind of, I don't know what you call it.
So if you add pages, it will be there automatically.
Okay, so watch. Won't be there. If you happen to have selected, okay, wait, let's pay attention, please. If you happen to have selected a Schedule A with only one page, you're going to now have to add a second page, or as instead you're screwed. Right? To add a page to your schedules, press on the Add Page button on the top right of the screen. Try it now. At the top right of the screen, there's an Add Page. It'll ask you if you want to add a page. Click Yes. So if your schedules start to go to 2, 3, 4, 5, you can do it that way. Likewise, you can remove pages. Click on Remove Page. It will not remove an in-between page. It will remove the last page of it. Nobody removes an in-between page anymore. So we've now covered adding clauses to this. Connie will be sharing the freehold and condo clauses that you can just copy and paste. Just a reminder, this is one thing I want you to remember. When you copy and paste the clauses, it even says page 1 on page 2 on this file. So copy everything page 1 to page 1. Copy everything page 2 to page 2. If you're adding and removing clauses manually, this is how you do it. It's the same as the existing WebForms, but just be mindful of the schedule pages. Otherwise, you're going to end up running out of pages. You have to add and remove pages.
Can I
Once this is
bring
done,
something up about the adding pages?
okay, please.
Yeah, if you bring up pages, this came up at the WIPY meeting. If you add pages and it says page 8 of 8, and you realize you just you don't need the last page, you have to change it because when it goes to the lawyers, they're going to be looking for 8 pages. And you have to have 8 pages initialed, even if it's just blank. So make sure you don't have extra blank pages because then.
Yes, you may have selected a 7. Thank you, Lisa, for that addition. You may have 7 pages of Schedule A for whatever reason, and 6 of them are blank. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you did that inadvertently and you printed out the offer, you just do either a squiggly or type in intentionally blank, just like you would have to do, and then just initial it. Yes, there's a couple of things that will end up getting fixed. Like we don't know when this one will get fixed. It will be corrected for sure, but this is how to do it. Important thing. Yes, this does autosave as far as I know, but I never trust the autosave. So here's an important thing. Pay attention to this step, please. On the very top left, the very first button here says File. To save this file, look for the diskette, and then press Save. For the millennials, you don't know what a diskette is?
I know.
I'm joking. Yes, we still have.
Do you know what
diskettes
an
in our
8-track is?
And we're done. We've created.
You don't?
We created a transaction template. Okay, I'm going to open this up to questions for the transaction template part. Any questions? Yes.
So clauses, if we go in and edit clauses,
Okay, please, let's pay attention to the questions that are being asked, because this may be one of your questions that you end up asking. Yes. Yes.
whenever I use that.
Yes. Correct. So a transaction template, once you start actually doing a transaction, it pulls from this template whatever you just created. So whatever you create here as far as your schedule, as Connie said, should be more or less a commonly used or standard Schedule A. You shouldn't fiddle around with this and do custom stuff or funny stuff with it, because every single deal you do is going to be based on exactly how you did this. So if you put cannabis disclosure, every single deal you're going to do has a cannabis disclosure that it was used as a grow-up. So put the proper clauses in here that we're going to be sending out. Yes.
So theoretically, you could just make another template, say, as a firm buyer offer.
Yeah, 100%.
That has all the clauses.
100%. So here's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
Or delete them
that's
now.
right.
That's a fantastic idea. So if you're going into multiple offers and you know you're going in firm, remember Form 127 should be one of those forms anyway, which is the acknowledgement of conditions and offer if you're removing conditions. So you may have a template that says firm buyer freehold, firm buyer condo. That's exactly what you can do with this. It's a beautiful idea, because then you just go in there, it'll only generate those forms. You don't need waivers and notice of fulfillments in that kit. And so that's what you end up using. Plus your Schedule A would have been formatted for a firm offer, plus your Form 127 would already say the conditions that are being excluded. Yes,
Similar things to be done for rural properties for versus those in subdivisions.
exactly.
Yeah.
Another use, exactly, especially up here.
Rural
Yeah.
properties.
You could do a freehold, rural, freehold, urban, whatever it is. You can do whatever you want with these template kits. The important thing to remember about the template kit or the templates is that every transaction that you start is going to be based on exactly how you created this. So and we're going to see that in a moment. Anybody else have any questions before I wrap up with this? Yeah.
Actually, I had on the template for the previous system.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's program setting.
I saw it here. There is also my template is here, but schedule.
Yes.
blank.
Oh.
Yeah. So anything that's carried over, if you've started putting them over, those are pretty much, I mean, I don't want to say useless, but it's pretty much useless
Yeah.
because you cannot edit those. And those are not transaction
Then
templates.
it's better we delete it and
Start over.
Yeah.
Start over from scratch. If you happen to see a transaction like your kids and you're excited, hey, I don't have to do this anymore, you're wrong. You actually do have to do it, because anything that's brought over is a flat PDF that you cannot modify, you cannot replicate. Anything that's on your old web forms is pretty much gone. You just bring over the clauses, bring over the collection, like understand the numbers that you use of the forms, but everything else is pretty much useless. Yes.
So, if it's a last minute thing and, you know, we're in a jam. And
Yes.
we just need somebody that can
Yes.
immediately,
Yes.
we're all the people that we can
Okay, so if you're in a jam, Connie and I are forwarding our phones. So the reason why, okay, so if you
Our
notice,
phones will be on manana
They're
time.
leaving the country.
we're leaving on the 16th. We're all going on retreat. If you notice, you go to the training calendar, every single day we're doing a training session for the next 2 weeks.
And I've sent
This
it
is
out.
my
Yes,
this is my
that's
third
brilliant.
this is my third recording of this.
Yeah, but that's really brilliant at Christmas.
This
Okay,
is
seriously?
this is just the way the transition
Okay, but
happened.
don't shoot the messenger. It's Trev's doing it. We're just trying to do whatever we can do.
So here's the thing. The reason why we're taking this steps is, number one, I mean, we don't have a control over when the December 16th deadline is set by CREA. It's not us who has set this
Well,
deadline.
that's stupid too.
Right? We're doing the training so that at least we can get
What
used
do
to
we
it.
do?
So this was launched in like.
I've been sending emails since September.
We've been sending emails since then,
September.
and training has, like, there's been online training available. However, so let's not get into that. It is what it is at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
Every single day for this week and next week. Yesterday I did a training session. Next week I'm doing 2 training sessions on Monday back to back. Corey, Michael, Sam, all of our managers are doing training sessions every single day at the training center. I brought it up here. We've done it in Richmond now. This is going to be my 3rd recording of this. The reason why is not because we want to offload anything to you. Here's the problem. You call me on January 2 and the phone forwards to, I'm just kidding. You call me on January 2. You tell me, John Deere, I'm trying to do this, but I can't see what you see. I can't see what you see, and there's so many pages to this. So Ranjit, for example, just as an example because you asked, she called me yesterday and asked me a specific question. I don't know what page she's on. I don't know what page she's seeing. So you can imagine that in the old web forms, it was just simple. The good thing about this is there's a lot of features to use with your transactions, but the challenge is if Connie and I don't know which page you're on, number one, you're gonna have to describe every single thing you see on that page before we even know what you're looking at, which is near impossible. And unless we're on a what do you call this?
Like a team viewer kind of.
Yeah, like on a team viewer type of thing, we won't know. Now, fortunately, there is this help button here, and CREA's CREA's helpline is available, TREB's helpline is available, and I have a feeling they're going to get bombarded with calls. But
We actually
one thing I'm going to assure you,
they didn't help.
if you do this enough times, you will get the hang of it. It is a lot easier, in my opinion, once you know where you're finding it, especially once you go to create transaction. The next thing we're going to do is so easy once you go through it, that you'll be, as long as you set up your transaction templates, you will be fine.
Yes.
If you need help, yes, you can call us, but we're going to need to know exactly what page you're on, and that's a difficult part to know. So
My only question, my only concern is because, because I'm new here,
yes,
like I had a team before that was taking care of all of this stuff. So I understand that you guys have your training and everything like that, but 9 o'clock when I was here, and thank you, Lisa, like I appreciate, like, Lisa was here
Yes.
to help me, but at that particular time, because I was on a jam, so I'm like,
Yes.
9 o'clock, what do I do? And if you're in a time crunch.
you have until December 16th to use the old WebForms. So this is not something you should be using if you're in a jam, right? If you're in, this is the reason why we need to be prepared.
What option do you have?
If in a worst case scenario, it's going to be paper-based. Like you're going to have to do it through paper-based.
Okay, so I can still.
Oh, you can still do paper offers. You can still do paper offers, and we will still print out paper forms for you. But once you go through this, and guys, I don't want to get. This is not a debate.
No, but
We're
she
trying
is
our
asking a
best.
valid question.
We're trying. It is a valid
She's
question,
asking a valid
but we're trying our best. The reason why we're doing this is so that nobody is in a jam. We're trying our very best to be proactive with it. We're trying our very best. One at a time, please. One at a time. Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand if when you migrate them, all
Yes.
you get is a PDF.
That's
then
it.
What's the point of
That's what we said in the earlier. There's no point.
But why was there a
So
point?
there's no point migrating.
It's for your option. Like, I mean, think about it. What if CREA said you have no opportunity to save any of these forms? That's not really giving much of an option.
You have to set up your template.
Okay. Yes.
Schedule
Schedule B is it. We're going to talk about that after. We're going to talk about that after. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes.
I was just gonna say, just to try to calm everybody down a bit. Sarah and I have spent a lot
Guys,
of
let's
time
listen,
on it,
please.
And here's some suggestions. When you go through it, it actually is quite simple when you do it.
Yes,
It's
thank
very
you.
overwhelming. Bev and I did it together just for support, and we said, let's set up a template. We didn't even have Connie's great code numbers, which are better. We went through and dug them out.
Manually. Yeah.
But once you got your head and you sat down quietly and did it, it's not as stressful as we are feeling right now. And it's just doing it. And then we did a markup on each, we sent it to each other through our sign to see
Yes.
what it looked like, and we did practice one.
Thank you very much.
So that's helping.
100%. This is one thing that you and I, we're all on the same page. Lucia knows this. Lisa knows this. Connie knows this. The first time I started using it, and you should have seen the first time I taught it, it was embarrassing because I did not know what I was even talking about. The only reason why I can show this to you today like this is by now I've done this at least a dozen times. The first time I was doing it, I hated the system just like Glenn. I'm like, you know, why, what's the point? I totally agree, and I know how you feel. I know exactly what it feels like that, you know,
I don't
you need to
hate
do an
it.
offer
I
today.
don't hate it. I hate the timeline.
I agree.
But we can't do anything
I
about
can't do
it.
anything about it.
I understand.
Okay, so let's move on. As Karen said, okay, listen, guys. As we go through it, I guarantee and I assure you, number one, you're gonna love it a lot better than the old system. Number two, it is a lot easier once you know how to use it. However, after today's session, if you don't create your transaction templates, and if you don't do a couple of practice runs of this, and then you get into a jam, that's not our fault anymore at that point. I'm going to be available here or through online. If you want to play around with me as far as doing these forms, I'm offering that to everybody in all of these offices, right? Within each other. Pretend you're selling each other's properties. Pretend you're going on a listing. Do this a couple of times. Guarantee if you do it 3 or 4 times, you're going to get the hang of it. You'll see it, especially once we do our transaction kit. Sorry, once we do our create transaction, you're going to see how easy it is. Yes, you have another question.
Can we, I know there's an ability to share between partners or team members.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
Yes. We'll save that for the end because
Can you share a template so I don't have to recreate
Yeah.
templates on my part.
So here's the thing.
Won't be able to do it.
And the reason why these questions are great, I don't have the answer to everything either because I've only done myself. Like Trev's Internet Appendicine version of this, the in-class, guess how many hours it is?
4.
4 hours. Guess how many pages the manual is? 200. If you want it, I'll email it to you. I'm compressing it into the essential things you need to know right now. So yes, I know there's team functionalities. I don't know everything about it yet. My assumption is in the team functionality, you'll be able to share the entire resource with everybody on your team. Have I done it? Not yet. So this is an example of we're pretty much on the same. Yeah, there's videos and everything. Yeah.
So for us that are internet appendicine
Yes.
users, would this be something we're using, or is that a whole other system?
Whatever you're seeing here is exactly the same on Trev Internet Appendicine. There's only a few functionality differences when it comes to the signature part. Everything else, I mean, you could literally follow this, and you'll see it at the end of this again. If we have time, you'll see at the end of this that it's exactly the same thing on Trev Internet Appendicine, just a different look and feel. I'm just trying to pull up the chat here to see if we
You
have.
have to go there and do it again.
Just to
It's
see
not
if we
gonna
have
do
any.
it just because you did it on CREA. It's not
Create
gonna
your
show up on
tracks in
Internet.
CREA,
Yeah.
you still have to manually do your.
Can I bring up something else that
Yes.
Sam brought up?
Sure.
One other thing that's, I was at the Whitby Pickering meeting.
Sure.
He's like, you don't want to be the new guy using the typewriter print. Because it's,
I changed it.
right?
Yeah.
Just,
Right here.
there's a way to, huh? So there is a way in settings to change the font.
That makes me so happy. I was like, what is that?
Font settings?
Huh?
The font settings you're talking about?
The font settings, yes.
Okay, I'll show it
I
to you.
just saw it now. But
Because-
like,
Because it'll be a giveaway. He says that everybody. I know, but it's very dated. It's very dated.
So what Lisa just said is that you can change the font. I'm going to show you how to do that. Another question. You can. I'll show you how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to answer a couple of questions. Hey guys. We're having so much fun. I guarantee you lunch is going to be even more fun than this. Please don't ask me questions about this during lunch. Okay, wait. Guys, okay, so everybody who's joined us online, they've also asked some questions. Number one, how do we find the pause button? I showed you that. Let's see, how do we place this new kit on our dashboard? You don't per se, okay, so some of you may ask this question, so please pay attention. Yvonne Alexiou asked, how do we place this new kit on our dashboard? You don't necessarily put this kit on your dashboard. I'm going to show you in our next step as we create transaction where this kit is relevant or where this template is relevant. So it's not about placing this template into the dashboard. It's about when we create the transaction, which is what we're going to do next. How do we use this template that we've just created? Once those templates are created, how do we access from the dashboard? I'll tell you what I mean. What I mean. Yes.
Same for like the page not going to the next.
Yes.
Is the same for Instrument,
Yes.
not just CREA.
So this page not going to the next page on schedules is the same on both Trev's and CREA's. Is everybody ready to create a transaction now? Yes? It's going to be even more fun. Does anybody have a listing with them? Does anybody have a listing?
I do.
Okay. Can you bring it? You have a listing?
You haven't done it yet.
Okay, so before we get to that, I'm going to show you all how to change the font. Now here's an example of I don't remember 100% of where to find things, but we're going to go through it together and we're going to discover it together. Go back to your hamburger menu, expand it, and then click on the setup. And let me guess which one it's in. I think it's in preferences. No?
Oh, program settings.
Program settings, you found it before me. Program settings. Did you find it?
Form settings.
Form settings.
And that's right.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay. If you want to change your font, if you don't like this typewritten font, not that this matters because you're going to get paid either way, regardless what font you use. But let's say you love to have pretty fonts.
I mean, you only have a few.
Comic Sans.
No, you don't have that.
Comic Sans is not available. Cursiva, Times Roman, Cursiva is not available. The squiggly one's not available. However, click on Hamburger Menu, click on Setup, click on Program Settings, Hamburger Menu, Setup, Program Settings, click on Form Settings. Thank you, Alexander, again. Default font, Courier Bold, you have these particular options available. Helvetica Times New Roman.
I heard you say magenta, bro.
Times New Roman, you want it? Okay. Default size, you can also change the default size of your font. To make it legible, maybe 12.
Can you do an offer?
Change the color. If you want pink, change it to pink. No, I'm kidding. There's no pink.
There's magenta.
There is magenta. If you want to use, if you want to make pretty looking offers, you can use magenta. Click on update. Everybody ready to create a transaction now? Yeah, everybody's ready? Okay. Let's go back to the dashboard. Everybody go back to the dashboard. If you need help finding it, click on your hamburger menu, click on dashboard. Is everybody on the dashboard? Once everybody's there, I'll get started.
Email settings, where we were, send us an
Yes.
attachment. That, seriously, that.
Okay, we'll go through that. Remember that, we're gonna cover that after. Everybody ready to go? We're back on our dashboard. Time's up, sorry. I'm just kidding.
Okay, bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Time for lunch. Let's go.
Thanks for coming out. Everybody on dashboard, we're gonna create a transaction now. We're gonna sell Ranjit's house today. Okay.
The little like here.
What we're going to do is we're going to create a transaction. Guys, let's keep on going. A freehold buyer sale. I'm going to give us 10 minutes to do this. You're in a jam. You have 10 minutes to create an offer now. Fortunately, you set up your freehold buyer template. Therefore, it's going to be a lot easier process for every single one of you. I guarantee it's going to be 10 minutes. Okay, ready? Starting now. So in 11:10, we're going to be finished with this.
Okay.
Now we're going to send it for signatures. So I'm going to show you, if you're in a jam, just watch this video. You'll be okay. It's not as easy as that. If you're on the dashboard and you get to here by logging in, this is the first thing you'll see. You've created all your 8 templates. So no matter what kind of a transaction you're going to have, you're going to be okay. Here's what we do. Click here on Create Transaction. Click on Create Transaction. This screen pops up. We're going to call this one. What is the address of your?
222 Meadow Hall.
What is it?
222 Meadow Hall.
Meadow
Meadow Hall.
Hawk.
It's not on MLS.
It's not on MLS.
It's not gonna work. No.
Let's get something. Is it on MLS? No? Okay, let's get something on MLS. Somebody bring somebody.
2255 Main Street.
22. That's not a freehold. Freehold.
So what is the freehold people?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Anybody have a listing for a freehold that they'd like to sell today?
You want the MLS number?
MLS. Give me a name first. The street name.
66
CASSIE.
Yes.
Okay. However you want to name this is up to you. This is the name of your transaction. Whether you use the buyer's names, whether you use the address, whether you use both, it's up to you. We're going to use Anusha as the buyer for this. So I'm going to put 866 Cassie-Anusha because she's a buyer. So when I search it later, I can search it by the address or Anusha's name. It's up to you how you do this. It's entirely up to your best practices.
866.
Put in anything you want, fictional or what. Template. So let's pay attention to this. If you did not create a template, that's too bad. You're not going to be able to auto-generate these forms.
So all your templates.
But
will be
since you've created templates, all of them should appear here. Do you remember that we created the freehold buyer template just now?
Yeah.
So my freehold buyer template is there. So far, we're 2 minutes into this. Import data. What is it, a Toronto MLS listing? Of course it is, right? What is the MLS number? What is the MLS number?
N4.
Okay, wait. Sorry, I can't hear. N46.
2717.
So
Is that correct?
You can't put in the address anymore?
It's importing data from this MLS. We are the cooperating salesperson. We're the ones selling this house to Anusha.
Yeah, but it's in the old WebForms. You just put the address
This is exactly what you see right now. This is all you see right now. So whatever's happened in the past, it is what it is. Okay, everybody listen. MLS number is N46 27175. Again, N as in Nancy, 462 7175. That is the MLS number.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work? Okay, well, we're
It
gonna
works
see
on
what.
mine.
Okay, so hang tight. Add me as the cooperating salesperson. Use wizard. We're gonna check off use wizard. I'm gonna explain what that is. Do you have to use it? No. Uncheck it if you don't want to use it. And it's not the same wizard as what you see on Harry Potter. These are my dad jokes. Only a couple of you get it. Use wizard. Let's click on create, and it will create the transaction for you based on the forms that we've inputted earlier. So now, ideally, if you've created your transaction templates, all you have to do now is fill in the blanks, just as we would on the normal web form, on the old web forms. I'm going to show you what wizard means. Wizard is basically a 5-step process that works like a fill in the blanks. It's going to ask you what you want to fill in, and then you just have to answer it within the 5 steps. So step 1, you see here that we have the address, street number, street name, cities in Newmarket. So again, the first glitches might happen here. It may pull for you, it may not pull for you. If it doesn't pull for you, either there's something wrong with the listing or the system. That's a CREA issue. It's not something wrong with you, it's something wrong with the system. So in case you don't find it, don't sweat it. You're just gonna have to fill it in manually. For my example, it did. However, there's gonna be errors on this. Look at, for example, frontage direction, Armitage. That's not a direction, is it? So I have to correct it, otherwise my offer will be wrong. What is the front, which side of the street is it fronting on?
South.
South? Okay, good. So now I go up here, property type, it's a residential. MLS number is there. What is the width? It didn't pull the width, but what's the width? 50?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Depth?
120.
Did you check Geo Warehouse? Are you sure? Yep.
You have to
Assessment roll number, forget about it. Lot size code, feet. Legal description. Comments, forget about it. Now, listing information, this did not populate. Don't worry about it. What we need to put here is a purchase price. How much is the listing price, by the way? 950. Let's put an offer for 8, 7. Dwyer 600. Let's make it 800,000. 800,000 just for sake of simplicity. 5% deposit is 40,000.
Do you have to put in the list price?
No, if you put it in, it's fine. So okay, guys. Okay, sorry, we gotta save these questions at the end. However, just remember these questions. So just we can keep going. Anything that's not on here, you don't have to put in unless it's something related to the offer itself. The reason why all of this is here is, remember, this is a transaction desk, which means at some point in the future, once all this information is populated into here, you'll be able to manage the entire transaction just on here. That's why there's extra fields. You can appreciate that if you're on the selling side, you're in the listing side, this information will be on here. But there is no offer at that moment, so you won't have purchase price. That's just the way the system is designed. It shows all the information. Whether or not you use it is dependent upon what you're currently doing. Right now, we're doing a purchase for a freehold buyer. So we're just going to pay attention to what it says for freehold buyer. Please save questions till the end so that we can get along. We can get going. Additional deposit we won't have. Let's click on next. Contract date not relevant. Expiry date not relevant. Offer date. What's today's date? December 10. Irrevocable until. Let's give 11. Okay, 11. Acceptance. Has it been accepted? No. Additional deposit. Do we have one? So do we need a date here? No. Closing date. Let's give the lawyers a fun time. Let's make it December 31st. Title search date, 2 weeks prior. Is everybody with me so far? This is just as if you were doing it on the form, except I'm doing it at the wizard. Do you have to do it on the wizard? No. If you don't do it on the wizard, you have to do it on the form. I'll show you how to access the forms in a moment. This is the wizard view. Why it's a lot easier is because you appreciate that as you're going through the wizard, it's going to fill up probably 80 to 90% of the form before you even look at the forms. So let's click on next. These are contacts.
Sorry, irrevocable time, was that there?
It's not there. So let's just go with what's going. Let's just go with what's on the screen for now. Contacts. Just so step by step, whatever you see is what I see. So for the sake of time, I want to get this done. I'm in a jam. I need this done in 10 minutes. I only have 2 minutes left. So contacts. I'm going to add Anusha as a contact. So watch. Click on add. Click on create new transaction contact. And I'm going to choose the type of contact. Anusha is a buyer. Anusha's first name is Anusha. Anusha's last name is Rashad. Yes, you're welcome. Her email address is Anusha at Remax Hallmark. Anusha, who do you bank with? RBC? Where's the nearest RBC branch? Okay, so watch. Everybody up here, please. The sellers' names are on here. Listing brokerage is here. Listing salesperson is here. I'm the cooperating. Remax Hallmark is a cooperating brokerage. Anusha is the buyer. As an aside, we're going to pause our time for a moment. As an aside, what I see happening in the future. One day, if everybody is on board with this, your seller, your listing agent, your buyer agent, you may be able to do the entire transaction collectively by sharing each other's contact information. Whatever happens here gets sent to sellers, whatever signed back. That's at some point in the future, that's probably going to happen. You know how right now a couple of years ago you were faxing things back and forth. Right now you're, printing PDF, email. At some point, this is going to be entirely done on a transaction desk. Not right now, but that's the reason why it's here. Click on next. So here's an important part. Step 4 of 5 is the forms. Do you remember that we created a transaction template with all of these forms? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
All of the forms in the transaction template now appear here.
Where?
Let's pay attention. All of the forms that we put in the transaction template appear here. So one of the brilliant ideas earlier, if you're selling rural, just have rural related forms on there plus clauses. That's what you would have. The beauty of this is all of your forms are now here. Now I'm not in a bind to add one by one every single form. Everything's here. Once the conditions are fulfilled, I go back into this. The fulfillment notice of fulfillment is there. I just have to copy paste clauses. But right now we're just creating the offer for Anusha. Forms are here. You don't have to worry about forms anymore, as long as you've done this. If on January 2 you did not create your transaction, or actually, if on December 16th you haven't created your transaction templates, you're going to have to add these one by one, which you can do. I'll show you that now.
Oh my God.
If your forms is blank here on this wizard, you just have to click on add, and then it's going to ask you which forms you would like to add to the transaction. You're going to have to do it one by one. If you created the transaction template, all of the forms will show up. So please, everybody create your transaction templates. We're going to save questions till the end. I'm going to give you a shortcut. Has anybody heard of Red Rover?
Yeah.
Red Rover will create 8 transaction kits for you, 8 transaction templates for you. So that come December 16, hopefully you put this order in advance, you'll have all of these transaction templates ready to go.
You should be able to do the template at any time.
You should be able to do the templates at any time. So all of the forms are here. You have to contact Red Rover for that. We'll send out information about it as well. Forms are here. Can you edit these forms one by one? Yes. All you have to do is click on them individually. We're not going to do that right now for the sake of time. I'm going to show you how else you can how else you can edit it. However, all the forms are there, so don't worry about the forms for now. Step 5 of 5 is a fax back cover sheet. Just ignore this. I'll show you what it looks like, because some of you may be curious and click on the link. It's basically a cover sheet. My guess, and I haven't done this, so I mean, it's up to you if you want to try this out. My guess is for those of us still using fax, you may be able to print this entire thing on fax and then fax it back into the system by sending it to this fax number. It's going to know which transaction it is, and you'll be able to pull it back in. But nobody's probably going to use that because none of you, how many of you used a fax in the past year? Nobody, right? So just disregard this. In case you're curious, that's what it is. Now we click on done. Now we're done, right? We're finished? Let's go to lunch? No? What? We got to look at the forms. So here, the view that you're going to see now is this, after you finish the wizard. If you did not click on the wizard, this is what you're going to see first, which is the dashboard. Does everybody get that?
How do you click on the wizard?
At the very beginning, there was already a checkbox. That was the default. If you did not check on the wizard, this is what you're going to see first. If you check on the wizard, you're going to go through those 5 steps until you reach this. Now watch. This is what makes this easy to use. This is what makes this easy to use. On the right-hand side of this, on the right-hand side, you see the menu of everything that you could possibly need for this transaction. Does everybody get that? Is everybody looking at this?
Yeah, the wizard on the right-hand side.
So every single thing you could use for the transaction is there. If you want to jump back into the wizard, let's say, for example, you forgot something. All you have to do is click on wizard, and then you're back into the wizard. It'll go back to whatever you were just currently doing. If you want to jump into any part of this transaction, all you've got to do is look at the menu. Now, for the sake of understanding the navigation, I'll tell you what you'll find in each of these. The dashboard will show you at a glance your entire transaction. So what are the forms? What are the documents? A document could be a Schedule B. I'll show you how to upload that in a moment. The contacts. And just like the dashboard, when you log in, you can also modify this if you want. Unlock it and modify whatever you want, but I'm not going to touch that today. Details. Remember through the wizard, we filled out the details? If you don't want to use the wizard, you still have to do it here anyway. It's up to you how you want to use it. And as with WebForms, anything that's incomplete will just not show up. And so if you left something blank, once you actually go through your offer, it's going to be blank. That's just the way it is. So don't worry about messing this part up. You can always go back and jump between forms as long as you know how to navigate through it. Yes, it is overwhelming that all of a sudden you see a dashboard like this. It's like you're driving a car one day, and then the next day you're expected to fly a rocket ship into the moon, right? It's tough, I get it. But once you navigate through it and understand where everything is, you'll be able to find it. In the contact section, please, we'll save the questions till the end. I'm going to go through this. In the contact section, all of the contacts that are relevant to that transaction will be here. If you need to add a contact, you can do that here. Remember, we did this in the wizard though, right? If you didn't do it to the wizard, again, right-hand menu, click on contacts, you can add a contact. You can also delete contacts, so watch. On these three dots,
Let me finish.
if I click on it, it'll expand the menu, and I can press delete. If I want to delete a contact, I can delete a contact. Now here's the fun part. The next menu item is forms. You'll notice that because we create a transaction template with 11 forms, all the forms are on there. So you don't have to manually add in forms. However, if you need to manually add a form in, let's say, for example, you need to do a disclosure as a buyer, I would click on add. I would type in 160. And I only know that because I'm using this checklist. Click on the button here, and now I've added a form. I know this is going to be a lot to process now. We will repeat this. We'll do more sessions of it. Don't worry about it. And if you have any questions, we will answer it. Just save it at the end. But I'm happy to go through this a couple of times with you. And in fact, that's what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks anyway. Each of these forms, you can edit one by clicking on the form itself. So watch now. If I want to edit working with a realtor, I click on working with a realtor form. Now this is where you'll notice a couple of other glitches. For example, it's not going to necessarily pull in the name that you put in.
It doesn't auto-populate.
So this is why you still have to go one by one. I'm going to show you something real quick. Can I jump to the BRA for a moment? How I do that, look up here. If I click on this house icon, the house icon allows me to jump between forms. Don't ask me why it's a house icon. For me, house means home, which should bring me to the dashboard. I didn't design this thing. House icon here means jump in forms, whatever. I'm going to jump to buyer rep agreement. Is everybody okay with that? Just so I can show you something. Yours is magenta. Wow, beautiful. You see Anusha's name does appear here though. So here's another glitch. The buyer's name may not appear on some of these forms. Go into it one by one as you're supposed to anyway, just to make sure it's complete. So even though we put it in, yes, it appears on BRA. I bet that it's going to appear on the agreement of purchase and sale, but for whatever reason, it's not appearing on working with realtor. They've got to fix those issues. But I'm jumping back and forth between forms by pressing this house button. Let's say I want to go back into the view of what it was before. File save. I make sure I save it. And then is everybody on the screen still? Or you're on the forms page?
No, I'm on the.
If ever you get lost, I'm going to show you a tip. If ever you get lost, so right now I'm assuming we're all on different pages. Some of you tried fiddling around with something. I'm fiddling around with this. And then all of a sudden, how do I get back to my transaction? If ever you get lost, just expand the hamburger menu, click on it, expand, go back to dashboard. Dashboard is pretty much, for me, the home screen. And you're gonna notice now that your transactions has this transaction in it. Everybody try this out. Go back to your dashboard. Your transaction feed should now have this transaction in it. All you've got to do to get back into it is click on that transaction. Now you're back to your transaction. This is what makes this easy to navigate. Because in WebForms, you've got tons of forms going on. Here, you click on a transaction that you're on, it's going to show you just that transaction. And so if you're back here, again, the right side menu is your savior because that's where you can jump to any part of it, go back to forms again. And then you're here. I'm going through this a couple of times because I'm teaching you how to navigate and find the forms. In a moment, we're going to get into electronic signatures. I'm going to answer questions before that, but I want you to be comfortable navigating through this. There's nothing that you can do to mess this up unless you start deleting forms. But even that, like for example, to delete a form, click on this menu here, and then just press delete. I'm not going to go through every single line by line of the menu items. You can figure that out. I'm just going through the most important part. The most important part here is knowing how to jump between the forms and being able to edit them. For the sake of time, we're not going to edit these forms, which, and I hope all of you are RICO insured, because if you send it out the way we're sending it out, it's not going to be any good, right? Does anybody have any questions with this part so far?
Is
Yes.
Treb offering a course for this?
Treb's offering a course for it. Yes.
So if we're working on this project, on this deal.
Transaction, yes.
Transaction.
Yes.
How do we incorporate their Schedule B? Because
I'm going to show you that in a moment.
Okay.
Once we go, I'm going to teach you a trick here. I'm going to give you two options anyway, but my preference for it is doing it once we're doing the signatures, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But just hang on for a moment. You had a question?
Yeah,
You're good? Okay. Yes.
When, under the creating forms,
Yes.
you were punching in a number, say 810.
Yes.
But you could have chosen CREA or
Yes.
Treb or Hamilton or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. So for that part, when we set it up, we chose CREA.
Okay.
But now we're trying to understand what you said earlier, where
Yes.
if you go the
Yes.
if you go the Treb route versus the CREA route.
Right.
So now we're confused.
The forms
Is that
are
what
pretty
you're
much
doing?
common. The only real difference is that the Treb ones will say Treb on.
Right.
The Aurora ones will say Aurora on. I don't think that's a big issue.
And we're okay to use what we want.
Yeah. You're okay to use what you want, as long as you're not using like Kitchener Waterloo
But
and
it'll
it's
still
a Treb
have
listing.
the Treb number if we use the CREA.
Yes, it'll be.
That was the question.
Yeah, CREA's. So just so you know, CREA's version of this allows you to choose any form in all of Canada. Use the Toronto Real Estate Board forms or the Aurora version, which is the provincial version. But I mean, of course, you're not going to use KW if you're in Toronto. Yes, another question.
The question was, when you go on the Treb system.
Yes.
And you upload all your information for a listing.
Yes.
That's the system only, okay?
Yes.
The other one,
Yes.
gives you the opportunity to transfer the data right to.
We're not going to cover that today. Sorry, you know what? I correct myself. If we have time, I'm going to show you that.
Because we need to make that choice on what system. we're
Yes,
using.
we're going to cover that after. Right now, we're answering questions about this transaction. I'll cover that afterwards if we have time and if everybody's still okay with it. Right now, I'm answering questions about what we just covered, nothing else. Just so you understand this fully. Anybody have anything specific to this that you have a question about before you move on?
If
Yes,
you
Joe.
didn't hit save, and I haven't played around with it
Yes.
enough, if you didn't hit save,
Yes.
it would be lost, right?
Again, autosave, it does autosave. However, how much I trust it, I've heard somebody using it for the longest time, didn't click autosave and it was all gone. The system to me, it's still a bit glitchy.
Okay.
So just be very adamant about pressing the save button.
Yeah, okay.
Just until you're familiar with it.
I missed out on only part of it.
Yes.
The early part of your
Yes.
presentation. I feel like I lost.
Okay, anybody else before we jump into digital signatures, electronic signatures? We're good, going once, going twice. So we're gonna jump into electronic signatures, how to attach the Schedule B. And after that, I'm happy to show, if everybody wants to stick around because we've still got time, I'm happy to show you Treb's Instant Authentisign and answer absolutely any questions. I know this is a very stressful process. Believe me, when I started doing this, I was going frantic about trying to figure this out.
Pearls while you were gone?
Oh, there you go.
I've been caught.
But I assure you, as you go through this, you'll get comfortable with it. You'll fall in love with it, I can guarantee it.
She just curious.
Let's go to electronic signatures. But first Schedule B. Let's pretend we have a Schedule B. How do we include it into this transaction? Watch. Right below the Forms button is the Documents button. When we click on Documents, the fax cover sheet is still there. Let's click on Add. And I'm going to click on Add New Document. Is everybody with me so far? When I click on Add New Document, I'm not actually going to do this because I don't have a Schedule B, but I want to show you how to do it. When you click on Add New Document, you have a choice. Upload, pull it in from the cloud, from a Dropbox, or an email. All you've got to do now is click on Upload and just choose from your computer what you want to attach to this. Now, what kind of documents could you upload into this? Remember, this is now a transaction management platform. Meaning if you have a survey you want to attach to this, just for future reference, you can add your survey. If you want to include the pre-approval from your buyer, even though you're not selling with the seller, just for your records, you can actually include the pre-approval in this, just so you have it. So the document section of this is used to attach any supporting documents you'd like to attach, whatever you'd like to attach to. Schedule B should be one of them, because if you want to have a Schedule B, you can do that here. However, my recommendation is if you want to have a Schedule B attached, do it with the Docusign. And I'm going to show you Docusign right now. Is everybody ready? Docusign. We're talking about Docusign today. So let's say, for example, you've completed all of your forms now, and you want to send them for digital signature. There's two options you have. Click on Forms. The first option is you can send it one by one. How many of you would like to send it one by one? No, but let's say, for example, you forgot working with a realtor and you need to send that one only. On this menu here, the 3 dots menu, click on it, and you'll see Send to Docusign. If you linked your account, you will see that. If you did not link your account earlier, you have to link your account first before you see that button. Click on Send to Docusign, and then it's going to send it to Docusign. It loads up on Docusign. And there you go. Now you're all familiar with this. It's not going to be a Docusign training session, but provided you understand how to use Docusign, you'll know what to do from here. Now here's the thing, and I'm going to show you Trev Internet if everybody wants to stick around. I'm going to show you one thing. Docusign does not auto-populate signatures. At the same time, it does not carry over your contacts. So now, remember how we put Anusha as the buyer? It did not carry her over. At some point in the future, maybe they'll do that. Right now, they're not doing it. So you have to literally start from scratch, you literally have to start from scratch putting in the recipient, as you're normally doing now anyway. You add her as a buyer, and then you have to map out her signature. Just as an aside, on Trev's Internet Authentisign, once you send it for signatures, I'll show you that in a moment. Once you send it out for signatures, it'll pull all the data from Instinet. It knows that Anusha's the buyer. It'll pull in her name and contact. It'll map out the signatures for her, and it'll send it all to her for signatures. So that's Trev Internet Authentisign. I'll show you that in a moment. Because we're using Docusign here, you do have to add the recipient. I'm not doing it because this is not a Docusign class. You have to add recipient, you have to add Anusha in, and you have to map out her signatures. That's how you do one form. If you want to do multiple forms, I'm just going to click on Go Back to bring me back to the, hopefully this works. So I'm back here again. I'm back on the Forms view. Let's do multiple forms, okay?
Oh, I did do that.
You want to do multiple forms? Yeah. So let's say, for example, I'm sending, okay, watch everybody up here. I'm going to send multiple forms now. You see these circle, I would call them checkboxes? I'm going to send Working with Realtor. I'm going to send Confirmation of Co-op, Buyer Rep, as well as Agreement of Purchase and Sale. Just those 4 for now. To send multiple forms, select the forms that you're sending out. Now watch. See this basket? I'm going to click on the basket. All the forms that are going to be sent out are here. Now all I have to do is click on the first icon, which is Send to Docusign. I click on that and watch what happens.
I don't have it either, because I'm just like.
If you don't have DocuSign, you're not gonna be able to do
Yeah, I'm
it.
just
No,
hanging
no,
out.
I hate that. What was the first step to get into that when you're setting, like I've already set up DocuSign?
Yes.
But
How do you send it?
did you go import or change transaction status?
Okay, so well, I'm gonna repeat this. Okay, so everybody saw how I did that? Is everybody good? Okay, I'm gonna repeat it one more time entirely, in case you missed out on it, in case you're confused.
You're starting from the beginning?
No, I'm just gonna show you how to send it again. Getting hungry. Where do we go if we're lost? If we're completely lost, we have no idea where we're at. Where do we go?
Little timer there, dashboard.
Let's click on the dashboard. Okay, let's click on the dashboard. On our transactions, we see our transaction here. And we're back on the transaction dashboard now, which is the overview of the entire transaction. We want to send these out for signature. So where do we go? We click on Forms. This loads up all the forms, and I'm assuming you edited these forms. I'm assuming you put in the proper information, all of these forms. To send one by one, click on the 3 dots beside the form you want to send. When you click on those 3 dots, one of the options will be sent to DocuSign if you've linked DocuSign like what we did in the beginning. If you did not link DocuSign, you're going to have to watch this video so that you start from the beginning. I'm not going to click it again, but once you click that, it'll send just that one form to DocuSign. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
If I want to send multiple forms, I choose which forms I want to send out. Right, I checked off which forms I want to send out. You see that the shopping basket has 4 forms selected. I click on that, and then I click on Send to DocuSign, which is this first icon here. So that's 2 ways of sending it. There's another way I'll show you. If I'm editing a form, so I'm in that forms view, and I want to send it out from here, I look for the pen icon, which is the top right, and I click on it, and it'll send to DocuSign. So that's 3 ways to
Just
send.
that one form.
Just that one form. So again, one is from the forms menu, one by one. From the forms menu, you can send it as a batch. And from the actual form itself, you can send it for signature. Any questions? We're wrapping up our signature part of this. So does anybody have any questions with the signature part of it before we get into the juicy part of this? Like all the floodgates will be open and you can ask me absolutely anything. Any questions about the signature part? Does everybody know how to do it now?
Just in general, did you do in Richmond, how did you do it in Instinet or CREA?
I did CREA in Richmond.
Are you gonna do Aurora and Richmond Instinet? Or are you gonna do it at the high level?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question right after we wrap up our signatures. Is everybody okay now with signatures? With DocuSign? DocuSign users that are going to be using CREA WebForms, this is what you're going to go through. I'm going to talk to you now about the trap incident at Pendesign. However, I just want to finish up any other questions with regards to this. Does anybody have any questions with regards to any of the 3 things we've done today before I open it up for absolutely anything? Anybody have any questions whatsoever? If you feel lost, that's okay. The first time I did this and the second time, watch my videos. It was ridiculous. It takes a bit of time and practice to get to know this. If you want to learn Trap Incident at Pendesign, I'm doing that as a bonus right now, so stick around. But I'm happy to answer any questions with regards to this particular Schedule B again? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I apologize. Okay. I forgot to Schedule B. Sorry, guys. Okay, watch. As you recall, this is how you send all of the forms in for signatures. So then it opens in DocuSign, right? Can again drag it in at that point. What I recommend for the Schedule B, once all of these forms have been sent to DocuSign for signatures, click on Actions, click on Edit Documents, and once you click on Edit Documents, you can now add the Schedule B here. This is how I recommend you do it if you're using DocuSign.
Same thing if you had a survey or whatever in the past. And you just needed it.
And the thing about this is you can also drag and drop. So if your arena purchase sale happens to be here, you may want to drag it till the end get working with realtor, BRA, confirmation of co-op, then agreement of purchase and sale, then upload your schedule B here. This is how I'd recommend you do it.
Show us how to upload the schedule B,
Okay.
to get it from Trav.
Click upload. Well, first you have to download it from the listing.
Okay.
The same way, it's the same way. Download it from the listing. I wish it were that easy too. Download it from the listing, save it to your desktop, upload it through here. Okay?
So there's some fancy way to do it, never mind.
Good. There's no fancy way. Not yet. Anybody have any questions before we wrap this up?
After,
Yes.
I have a ton of that.
after all signing.
Yes.
You said that you guys are signing, and how is the situation?
I'm telling you,
Send it
it's
to
so
the
much.
Okay.
contract.
Okay, so everything else remains the same as the process is concerned. Like, we are looking into adopting a paperless solution brokerage-wide, but as you can understand, with 5 different regions and different boards, it's a lot of different steps to take. Aurora's paperless, so however you do it here is how you keep doing it. Everything else, you still do it the same way. Like, send a PDF, deals department, that sort of thing, until something changes with that process.
Is there a problem we like didn't Remax or Hallmark dump Lone Wolf because it just
I'm not familiar with that particular.
when we went to Broker Bay, we got Lone
No,
Wolf,
quick
right?
office.
That's, yeah.
We
That's,
still have Lone Wolf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
anybody else have any questions with
How
regards
does
to this?
the Hallmark feel about which program they feel is suitable for our?
I love the question. I love that question. That's a very good question.
Well, because we can now upload on the Trev site
Yes.
directly
Yes.
to Trev,
Okay, so here's-
populate everything.
Okay, so
Why would we use the other system?
so here's my.
What's the benefit of Docusign at this point?
Okay, so hold on.
It just, I'm not sure how it works for you guys, but I think Docusign renews in February, so you have a little while to decide what you wanna do and like play out with both. Cause Instanet is still, it's the same, but it's still a little different. So see if you can get yourself comfortable. You have a couple months to decide if you wanna completely switch over, but just make sure you let Lisa know you don't wanna renew them. Cause then there's no point if you pay 150 if you're comfortable with Instanet.
Which one's easier?
It's a bit of a learning curve.
DocuSign is easy.
DocuSign is easier.
I went from DocuSign to it about a year ago. Sorry. And, yeah, a little bit of a learning curve. I think I prefer DocuSign, but now at this point, I've written so used
But the
to
harder
it.
part,
They're both so easy.
yeah.
They really are, and then now that this is happening, I'm excited.
How do you use Trev then?
Yeah, and I continue using it.
Get
I'm
rid
already
of
comfortable with
duplication
it.
of having to do a draft.
Yeah, the fact that we'll auto-populate signatures, that's huge to me.
What, eventually on Trev?
Yeah, but we'll auto-populate the signatures.
I'm with CREA and I decided it on.
Can't find my chat for some reason. I have no idea if there's any questions. Okay. So you know what?
No, it won't, not even free trial.
It's free with Trev.
I know, but now you wanna get it. So I bought it for
But
$69.
why would you use
What's
the
the
free system
benefit?
over?
Okay, so let's chat about let's chat about Trev versus Docusign and so Trev.
You're gonna go to Trev and do it.
Yes. John, I asked the help desk what it was talking about. Out of curiosity,
Okay.
She said
Yeah,
$5.
they said it's basically.
CREA is the most.
The lady on our help desk said
And I think,
Yeah.
They said CREA is the more popular version.
Is it? Okay.
Because they're so you can use platforms are acceptable, but it's easy to access the very
Yes.
all down to the
Okay.
I was wondering if you
left.
think of the today.
Okay, so let's have we'll talk about now Trev versus CREA. You know, how you would choose which one to use and all that sort of thing. The answer at the end of the day, it really depends on how you want to do your business. I know from up here, especially in New York region, you may be working different areas, different boards, and you're interacting with that. CREA gives you access, in terms of the forms at least, to all of the different various boards and access to different forms for that, whereas Trev is specific, of course, to Toronto Real Estate Board, which is not necessarily a problem, but I wouldn't cancel your DocuSigns right away because you may end up having to revert back to CREA WebForms or use it,
But you could
depending on
spend
what you're,
$70 instead of 100.
or you can,
It's free.
so that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion altogether because that depends on the platform. So this is how I would explain it to you. I mean, if you're active on Trev, like, I mean, for us, like in the Baby Village offices and the Toronto offices, it's probably going to be a bit different than up here. the main benefits to having the TREB, number one, is really having that MLS data information directly uploaded. I'll show you that now, actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of this. I'm going to log into my...
Deals outside of the town real estate board, then why would we use CREA?
Well, it also has all the hallmark clauses.
It has hallmark clauses, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I talked about earlier that you'll have.
Yeah.
Okay, so watch. Once I log into Toronto MLS to Stratus, Internet Attempt to Sign is how you get to the TREBS version of this. WebForms is how you get to the WebForms version. Now I'm going to click on Internet Attempt to Sign. And what you're going to notice is that, look at the look and feel of it. It's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, except there's just a couple of color changes. The transactions that I have here are different than the ones in CREA because they don't communicate to each other. So whatever you do on TREB, if you're using TREB right now, will not appear on your CREA. Whatever you do on your CREA will not appear on your TREB. So just be mindful of that. And if you ever have to change systems, just be mindful of that too. You can't just send everything from here to there and from there to here. It's like a Dr. Seuss book, right?
Sorry, back up for 1 second.
Right.
So I logged into web, I
Yes.
clicked on WebForms.
Yes.
And it's taking me to CREA. So is that-
Yes.
am I-
When you click on WebForms,
There's an instant.
CREA is WebForms. TREB is not WebForms. WebForms is a registered trademark of Canadian Real Estate Association. So it's not TREB WebForms. That's why it's not called TREB WebForms. TREBS is Internet Attempt to Sign. That's what it's called. CREA's is CREA WebForms.
But I'm back to.
Yeah. Which, if you look at it, it's different from what I have here. This is TREBS. That's
So I just
CREA.
created a
Yes, that's on CREA. That's CREA's. We talked about CREA earlier.
So why is the other?
To the TREB one?
Yes.
So on the home page, sorry, again. On TREB,
Yeah.
on the home page, to get to TREB's version of it, click Internet Attempt to Sign,
Not WebForms.
not WebForms. WebForms is CREA WebForms, which is what we were just using.
So, my WebForms.
Yes. So I know exactly. So everybody listen up here because it's going to be a very important point that I'm just about to make, which Anusha pointed out. Do not simultaneously log into both. Because they're both lone wolf, they're pulling data, right, at the same, if they pull data at the same time as you log into both, you may be under the impression that you're doing it under one, and then next time you log in, you don't find it. It's because you were logged into both at the same time. It will show up on one of those platforms. So right now, because we were doing CREAs, you may have logged into TREBS and you're saying, hey, John, you're lying. I see everything I've just done on TREBS.
Yeah.
Well, good luck once you start doing that and log into that next time because it'll disappear. I don't know how the data stuff works. That's beyond the scope of our discussion. If you log into both, yes, you will for a moment see both of them. But once you logged out, whatever platform it remembers you logging into originally is where that particular transaction will be. It won't be on the TREB one. So if you're seeing it on the TREB one right now, it's because you did not log out, which is fine. I mean, this happens. You didn't log out and log back in. So for me, because I closed my window, once I click on Internet Attempt to Sign, which is TREB's version of the transaction desk, I don't see what I've just done. Remember we were talking about Cassie? It's nowhere here. Because I logged out and I logged in, this is showing me just TREB. Now I'm going to show you something. Aside from the color scheme changes, you see that everything's pretty much the same thing as far as the look and feel, because it is. So if I were to create transaction templates, I'm not going to go through this entire thing again once, but I'm going to show you where to find it. If I click on setup, like what we've done earlier, and I click on transaction templates, it's exactly the same thing. Here I happen to set up all of my transaction templates, whereas in CREA's I didn't. So you remember when I logged into CREA, I only had one. Here I've created all 8 of them. So I'm good to go. But to create it, it's exactly the same thing as you'll see on the video. I'm going to show you, however, couple of the key differences with TREB Internet Attempt to Sign. Are you ready? Okay, I've already created my transactions here. So we've done that in the CREA version of our training earlier. So under the assumption that you already have a transaction template, well, you know what? I'm going to show you the fun stuff first. How about that? I'm going to show you how to do an MLS data information form direct upload into Add Edit on Stratus. This may be one key feature that if you're a strong listing agent, you may want to have this feature on your side, because instead of having to create the MLS data information form and then manually copying and pasting, here it's just one click. So does anybody remember offhand what the MLS listing form is?
Oh, a form?
Yes. The MLS
You mean 380 or 280 or?
listing area, the MLS data information form. Is it 112?
No, sorry. No, sorry.
Okay, so forget it. Okay, so watch. If you just want to watch, so that 292. Okay. No, it doesn't matter. 292. It doesn't matter what form you have, as long as it's the MLS data information form. So now, just as an aside, for those of you who are really keen on this, if you happen to be logged into CREA WebForms, and then you log into TREP, and then you go back to CREA, and then all of a sudden you see the upload button in CREA, and you're thinking you can do it, you can't. The reason why you see that is because there's data overlapping between two software programs. So remember, when you're working on one, just keep it on one and not the other. Don't launch both of them simultaneously.
Can you create a document in CREA WebForms and then download it and then upload it in Docusign and add all of your stuff?
You could, but there's no point in doing it. You might as well have just done it on the internet version.
But if you wanted all the Remax forms,
all the hallmark forms.
then
It's
it's
easier to go on the
question-
so
the
much
question is-
clauses. You can always just create your own.
Just copy the
It
clauses
used
and
to
then
be
make
that
new
you
clauses
could go,
in the thread.
it used to be that
As
you
your
could
own.
go to the bottom of the page on
Yes.
web forms after you
Your custom
created the
clause.
kit and did everything, and then import it into
Little bit of doing.
Docusign. You used to be able
Yes.
to do that.
So now the way it is
That way you
yeah.
had all the hallmark clauses and everything.
I see what you mean. So
When you do that.
to address that, use TREP. If you're using TREP Instant at Docusign and you want the hallmark clauses, so first of all, we are looking into how to import the TREP clauses, sorry, the Remax hallmark clauses into TREP. So we're looking into that. So that may not be a differentiator like in the future. The current fix to that is go to Hallmark Hub and download the clauses, and then you're just gonna have to pull manually. If somehow you create the form on CREA WebForms, download and put it into Docusign, yes, you can still use it under the Docusign. However, I don't think the signature mapping will work at that point. Because remember, what you're doing is you're downloading it as a PDF, and then you're uploading it as a flattened PDF.
But in the old web forms, you
Yes.
didn't have to download it to your
This is
computer.
not old web
Okay,
forms.
so I'm just checking because that,
Yeah.
like, there used to be a way to go.
No.
It was tricky, but you could go.
Because
to-
this has evolved into an entirely standalone platform now. So anything you think you could do in the old web forms doesn't necessarily apply anymore. So to me, if it's the hallmark clauses that makes the differentiating factor of this, but you still want to use your Docusign, the way to use it is download those hallmark clauses into a file. And for now, you're going to have to copy paste what you need. We're looking into what we're going to have to do to have TREP display our office clauses. So that may be something that you're going to see in the future. So I'm going to show you this real quick. So again, it doesn't matter what MLS data information form you pick. It could be a lease, could be a listing, could be a freehold, could be a condo. But what I'm doing now is I'm jumping, okay, so from this Hamburger Menu, here they call it Instanet forms. And then you'll see these forms pop up. Sorry, if I, let me just go back in there so you see it fully. If I click into Instanet forms, you'll see all the forms available. Now, the good thing about Instanet at Docusign is that, let's say, yeah, you are doing it specifically for a Hamilton offer or whatever, just use the Aurora form for an offer. Like Aurora is pretty much a catch-all for the entire province anyway. So if your concern is, I'm making an offer for Kitchener-Waterloo, I should use Kitchener-Waterloo forms, just use Aurora. It'll say Aurora on the agreement of purchase and sale. That way you don't have to worry about, it doesn't exactly. So we're gonna look at the MLS data information forms though, and Anusha suggested 292, which is the MLS data information form for a condo lease, co-op lease, whatever. So let's say you're uploading a lease. If I click on this, I don't wanna create a new transaction from here, I just want the form. If you're creating a transaction, you could do this from the transaction, but I'm bypassing that. Is everybody okay with it? I'm bypassing a transaction. I'm just doing the single form itself. So I click on create a new standalone form. And then that will load up. And then at the very top here, you see this box icon? It says upload listing. So watch what happens. Now I tried this yesterday and it didn't work because I didn't put sufficient fields in. It's not going to ask me for all mandatory fields. For the sake of example, I'm only going to put the bare minimum that I need to show you that this works. So let's say, for example, I'm choosing York. The neat thing about Trebs, because again, it's linked to Stratus, once I pick York, it's only going to show me the York municipalities. So now I'm going to choose Aurora. It doesn't show me everything. On CREA's WebForms, you do have to choose. So you do have to know all of your areas. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but this makes it easier here. And let's say I use Aurora Grove. I'm going to type in a street number, 123, anywhere. Street. And then a unit number, 123. And then watch. Let's assume I filled out this form already. Let's click on upload. And then there, done. I don't have to broker load it anymore. I go into my Treb, search properties, I click on add edit, and magically it appears as a draft. And from there, I can just click to go live. Now, assumptions. We're under the assumption that I completed that form entirely. I just showed you a shortcut because I wanted to show you for the effect of how it's up there, but you would have done it entirely, including descriptions and everything. Whatever you have on that form, once you click that upload button, is exactly what will go. If you start changing that form after, and you click upload again, it's going to upload again a new draft. So my recommendation is complete the form entirely, which you're supposed to do anyway. Any modifications, do it here. The second assumption is you sent that out for signature, which I'll show you that too for the authentic sign process of it. But provided you've done those things, on the Treb Instanted Authentic Sign, you can click that upload listing button and it creates a draft for you. And watch, if I go into this draft, whatever I put into that form appears here. And now the only reason for this is because Treb's Instanted Authentic Sign is directly linked into Stratus. They're sharing data. So whatever data you do have, whatever data you have on here, on the transaction desk, will be put into Stratus. That's the only reason you're able to do this. CREA does not have that bridge. So if you do your MLS data information form on CREA, you cannot direct upload. If you happen to see the direct upload button on CREA, it's because you've logged into both systems at the same time. And you're actually seeing Treb's direct upload, but it will not work. I've tried it. So to avoid confusion, you are going to have to pick which one you're going to use. And
will there be a point when the clauses, the custom clauses?
We're working on that.
Will be available.
We're working on that. We're working on that.
That's the only reason why.
Okay, we'll see. We're working on that. Okay. You had a question?
So basically, all your drop-down fields are this.
Yes.
Because it's Treb.
Yes.
It's the exact same as if you were doing a draft
On the action, exactly. So that's right. So the question is,
all the descriptions and everything else.
yes. So watch, I'll show you. Because this is linked to Stratus, the neat thing about this is that every dropdown on these forms, I'm using a lease one just for example, but this is the same with a freehold listing or a condo listing. Every dropdown here, what is this? This is one of my previous ones, yeah. So for example, every dropdown here has a descriptions that Stratus uses. So you know how you had to write two-piece whatever? Everything that's a Stratus option or field is on this version of it. Now, just to wrap up, I'm going to show you something really neat. And this is what my personal favorite is. Don't get me wrong, I love Docusign. Docusign, to me, I hated Authentic Sign from the beginning. Let's just keep that between us and the online people. The reason why is I didn't like the user interface. It was so complicated, wasn't very user-friendly. Docusign was so simple. However, my preferences have since started to shift. Not that I don't like Docusign anymore, but I'm going to show you one thing that might be a game changer for you. Let's say, for example, now, I've created all the transaction kits on here, but let's say I want to create a new transaction. And let's say, for example, I'm going to call it 123 Anywhere Street. and let's say it's a condo. So I've set up all my 8: condo buyer sale, condo listing lease, condo listing sale, condo renter lease, freehold buyer sale, freehold listing lease, freehold listing sale, freehold renter lease. These 8 kits do a freehold buyer again?
We just did it.
Just because we just did it? Okay, freehold buyer sale. Okay. I'm not going to import because you get it. If I import it, it's going to import the data fields. I'm going to skip wizard this time. So you see it a bit differently this time. I'm going to click create. Well, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to use again Anusha. So remember how we navigated this earlier? Now I'm going to go into a bit of advanced training. I'm going to jump right into contacts. Right now it's just me and Remax Hallmark because I did not put in a listing. But I'm just going to show you the buyer side. So here's the scenario. I have Anusha right in front of me, physically and literally and figuratively, whatever. She's my buyer. I'm going to sign working with Realtor and BRA. We haven't gone out looking for houses yet, but I want to sign working with a Realtor and BRA. Is that fair? Now, just as an aside too, because I love giving you everything for your mind to process. I've tried this out on an iPhone. You could literally create an entire offer using Trebison and Docusign on your iPhone, provided you set up your transaction templates, because it maps everything for you. You don't have to spend time dragging signatures anywhere. I've tried it. I have a video of it if you want to see it. You can use just your iPhone, be sitting in front of a house.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's a game changer.
So Trebison and Docusign should be paying me as your spokesperson, right?
And Friday, December 20th, the York office is having another session.
Yes.
Working with Instinet and Authentisign for $45.
Anybody use Android?
Android, I haven't tried yet. I haven't tried it on yet. But I'm assuming because it's browser-based, you should be able to use it. So watch, I'm gonna add Anusha as a transaction contact here. So she's a buyer. Anusha at Remax Hallmark. And I'm gonna click save. Now watch. I want her to sign working with Realtor and BRA. But again, we're always in a jam, right? We always want something done right now. But because I've listened to John Dirt, set up transaction kits, or I paid Red Rover to do it for me, I'm always ready to go, no matter what the situation is. So I'm gonna go into forms, and we all know that I want to working with Realtor and BRA. Now, I've made my Trebison and Docusign a lot prettier than my CREA. I've put everything in order in the way that I want to fill it out. So watch, working with Realtor BRA, would you like me to represent you as a client in the purchase of your first home? Fantastic. In order to do that, we need to. Connie, get out of here. In order to do that, we need to reduce this relationship to writing, and we need to have a working with Realtor and a BRA. Are you okay with that? Okay with signing today? Okay, good. Remember how I exported into Docusign before by selecting the forms and then clicking basket and then sending it out? So it's no different here, except when I click on the signature, it's going to send it to Docusign. So watch. Is everybody with me so far? I've already done this before. Now we're getting to a bit advanced. This is what I didn't like initially about Docusign. It goes through a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it's asking me simulsign and this and that. The one thing you'll notice though is that instead of it going into a new window, it's a built-in app. So Trebison and Docusign is actually built in. It doesn't take me anywhere else. And so this is what's neat. I'm going to simulate right now what you would see on an iPhone by reducing the screen size of this. And you just have to take my word for it. When I did this on my iPhone, this is what I saw. So now imagine I'm on my iPhone instead of this computer screen. It's asking me first, what are the details, advanced options. The details, simulsign. Simulsign means first come, first serve. Whoever signs it first. Anusha, are you married? No. No? Should I even ask? Am I supposed to ask those questions or no? No? Am I in trouble? Let's say she is, or let's say she's buying with a partner or a friend or family member. Simulsign means whoever signs it first signs it first. So let's say she's buying with Connie. If I put both of them, if Connie signs it first, she signs it first, no big deal. If it's signed in line, they sign in order. This is no different from Docusign. You can change 1, 2, 3, or you can have everybody sign at the same time. So that's no different. Advanced options, set an expiration date. I'm just going to open this up for sake of example for now, because it knows that I'm not on an iPhone or iPad. I can set an expiration date that if it doesn't hit the expiration date, it could keep going if I don't have one. If I do have an expiration date, if they don't sign it by that point, it just dies. The beautiful thing about it is if it doesn't, I can send them a reminder every single 4 hours. Sign the working with realtor, sign the working with realtor, right? Or I don't send a reminder, that's fine too. So that's fine. Some off. So that's fine. Step 1 is complete. It has a checkbox saying that if you send it out like this, we're good to go. Step number 2, participants. Anusha, myself. If I expand, you see my contact information. If I put on Anusha, she's here. Does BRA require our signature? Does it require my signature?
Yes.
It does. So I have to select both. Now, what are the roles? It says there's a type of a role or whatever else they're playing. A reviewer means they're only going to get to see it. In-person signer, forget about this. I've tried it. It's a bit complicated. Even though she's in person, I'm still going to put her as remote. I mean, I've yet to really figure that part out. It asks for a whole bunch of complicated stuff, so don't worry about that. I'm going to put both of me and her as a remote signer, meaning it's going to send it to our emails, respectively, and we have to sign it from our emails. Is everybody with me so far? I click on Add. Now we're good to go for participants. Documents. Remember I imported these documents? Working with Realtor, BRA? We're good to go, right? Because there's a checkbox. Design. Watch what happens next. This is the beauty of it.
Auto maps.
Come on, you gave it away. If I were doing this on my iPhone on Docusign, I now have to manually drag and drop. As an aside, I did try to do it on Docusign. It didn't let me on my iPhone. Why? The screen was totally screwed up. Like the mobile responsiveness of Docusign isn't quite there yet. And you can argue, okay, so depending on your, okay, so Android maybe. Okay, fine, let's throw this iPhone out. However, on Docusign, it has worked with no problems. With no problems. So watch. You kind of give it away, but anyway. Magically, all of the fields are now mapped for her signature and my signature. So if I was doing this on an iPhone, I would not have to do anything else. However, here's the caveat. Anusha, do you want to be a client or do you want to be a customer? What's the difference between both? In one, I'm protecting your best interest. In the other, I'm not, essentially speaking. If I left it like this, she would be signing both, right? Now, the reason I can see why Docusign has done it like this. They've done both possibilities. All you've got to do is delete the one that's not relevant, right? Move the signature away. You can do this on your iPhone too. Click on the one that's not relevant, delete it, put this back in, and now we're good to go with that. The other thing you may want to change is this contact after expiry. Actually, no, this is not a listing, so forget about it. You're good. You're good with that one.
So it just shows the importance of proofreading.
Exactly. So by representation agreement is there. Proofread all the signatures, but the good thing about this is you're not dragging, dropping signatures. Everything is there. If anything, the only thing you have to do is remove the signatures.
And oddly, it didn't do declaration of insurance for you.
No, right? I didn't? Okay. So here, one thing you got to add on there, and again, these are
you able
things
to
with the
drag and
systems.
Yeah.
What's that? Yes, you are able to do that on your iPhone. You see the exact same thing on the
John,
iPhone.
the
Yes.
auto-populate is a feature of Docusign, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I set up through CREA.
Yes.
I paid for Docusign. If I bought it,
Yes.
for $69.
Yes.
Because it's not free.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it auto-populated it.
On the CREA?
Yes.
It does that, eh?
Yes,
Oh.
and then when our last lesson, we
Yes.
thought that was only, it did Trev it on.
Ah, I
So
see.
we're like,
So you'll show it to me so I can see. But you're saying that on CREA's, it will auto-populate on Docusign.
yeah,
Because
she's on
now
trial
she's
and I
purchased
paid
it.
for it.
Because you paid for it.
Yes.
No, but I just did the free trial just to check it out, and it auto-populated.
Okay,
as well.
neat. The reason why is because all of this is actually owned by Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf owns Instanet.
Yeah.
Instanet owns Docusign. All of this is really Lone Wolf's doing. So that's the reason why all of this. But if you so that's another reason for CREA WebForms. So another point for CREA WebForms.
It is another.
But you got to use Docusign, and you got to pay extra for it.
Yes.
You got to pay extra for it.
$70
Yes.
for a year.
However, you still don't have the MLS data direct upload, do you?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
There's
pros and cons. You
There's pros and cons.
Remax Homer clauses on Docusign.
So now I click on next,
Yeah.
and we're done. That's it. That's all you need to do for Internet Docusign. So at that, we're going to wrap it up because it's already 12 o'clock. If you have any questions, let myself or Connie know. Thank you very much for all of your patience. We've got several sessions coming up, so feel free to attend any of them. We're happy to attend.
I learned yesterday that I list a property in the next 5 days. It's divorce and the
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Just make sure. So you have a two choice. Choose the Docusign. Just
Now, just so you know.
Yes.
with the
When they said,